A majority of the board is present, therefore a quorum is present, and the meeting is qualified to consider the agenda items. Board Member Wester, please let the audience know of our interpretation services, if you would.
Buenas noches. Si necesitan escuchar la reunión en español, tenemos a un intérprete o una intérprete. Si pueden levantar la mano. No los veo. En la esquina. Y tiene dispositivos para que puedan usar y escuchar la reunión en español.
Tonight's flag salute will be presented by the Booker T. Washington High School JROTC under the direction of Master Sergeant Kyle Gordiner. Please stand as we prepare for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the posting of colors.
Would you please join us in the pledge? Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Pose. Forward. March. Color up. Hold. Pose. Right. Face. Forward. March.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Ms. Wester, I know you'll be pleased to introduce the Booker T. Washington Color Guard this evening.
Absolutely, thank you. And they did amazing. They are very sharp looking. Master Sergeant Kyle Gordiner is their instructor under the leadership of our wonderful principal, Dr. Melissa Wooldridge. The pledge leader was Caitlin Perkins. The color guards were Emma Lasdens, David Marshall, Michael Black, and Julio Diaz Elizalde, who I've known since he was at Kendall Whittier.
Thank you, and thank you to the Color Guard for being here and doing an excellent job. I want to remind everyone that wishes to address the board, you'll need to sign up with our board clerk, Ms. Cindy Hutchings, here at the end of the board table on my right. I want to remind you that once we approve the consent agenda, we don't take any additional speakers, and there is a 5-minute limit, and we enforce that. So just remember that. I have had to sit little children down, so but we do hold to the 5-minute limit. Before I consider a motion to adopt the agenda, Dr. Gist, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes tonight, Madam President.
Great. Then I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
I'll call for the vote. Ms. Wester?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's always awesome when we have a full room. This evening we have our District 5 eligible board member applicants. Glad to see all of you. Love the engagement from the community on that, and also the seat that it will be open for election in February, also Mr. Percival's seat. So I know all of you have checked in with Cindy. Are we missing anyone else, Cindy? So we've got everybody. Great. Dr. Gist, are we ready for special presentations?
We are, Madam President. We don't have a special presentation tonight, but we do have a special agenda item, which we'll get to in just a little bit. But among our special guests, I want to just welcome and say a big thank you, which I'll repeat later on, to our North Tulsa Task Force, who are here in force in their shirts, and they're ready to present their recommendation to the Board of Education. So really look forward to hearing from them. But we have no other special presentations tonight besides that event.
We do have one resolution this evening in appreciation for Dr. Cindy Decker. It's strange for us to be sitting up here and her to be sitting out in the audience, but I am going to read the resolution and then I'll invite board members to make comments. Whereas Cindy Decker has served the children of Independent School District Number 1 with dedication and honor as a member of its Board of Education from May 2015 through January 2019. And whereas Cindy Decker has served the patrons of Independent School District Number 1 with time and talent as a member of its Board of Education representing Board Election District Number 5, be it resolved by the Board of Education of Independent School District Number 1, Tulsa County, Oklahoma, that the contributions of Cindy Decker as a member of this Board of Education be recognized and commended as being in the highest tradition of public service and dedication to the ideals of public education. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the resolution before I call for the vote? I'll call for the vote. Oh, Ms. Keller?
I just wanted to say thank you so much to Dr. Decker for her amazing service. And to those of you in the front row, I'm not sure how you're going to fill her shoes. They are very big shoes that she is leaving behind. And Cindy, thank you for everything that you taught us and for the leadership you showed us. And we're going to miss you.
Anybody else? I'll call for the vote. Ms. Wester?
Aye.
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 Aye. I will just say real quickly before, Cindy, if you'll come up to the podium in just a minute, I just wanted to say a few things. Well, it doesn't work if you cry at the beginning. You have to get through what you're going to say. But she's our colleague and our friend, and it's a great loss for our board for her to leave, because she brought an expertise in collecting and evaluating data that really elevated our entire conversation around TPS data and how the board can think about it, use it, and give feedback. But that knowledge was kind of expected. She's like a PhD in, a PhD economist, so we knew all of that. But what we probably didn't know that we were going to get in Cindy was a humanity, kindness, care, and empathy that she brought when discussing data or really any other matter. And those lenses elevated our discussions and decisions as well. I got a text from Cindy after I spoke about her kindness to the Tulsa World about a week ago, and she said, "Thank you for the nice quote in the Tulsa World. I strive to lead with kindness, so that personally means a lot to me." And I just laughed because I believe Cindy is the kindest and wouldn't need to put it on a list to lead with kindness. But this is the kind of person she is. She's always seeking to be her best, name what is the best, and exhibit those skills or learn them, and then use them well. While she was on the board, we navigated some very difficult situations, which is sort of the job of a school board member, generally, anyway. But we closed schools. We went through a teacher walkout together. There were changes at the school where she was an alum and her daughter attended at the time. And we changed names of schools, and she never shied from going headfirst into that work and navigating through using her analytic mind, kind heart, her skills inherent and acquired. And she did it as a member of a team. She did it equally, and we collaborated and made decisions together. She really was just about the perfect board member smart, dedicated to all the kids of Tulsa, very pragmatic. She could compromise. She was a hard worker. The only thing I really didn't like about her is when she told me she ate ice cream almost every night. And that just made me resent her, because I don't think anyone should be that healthy and get to eat ice cream every night. But when you serve on the board, you learn a lot, and you make a lot of friends, and that's kind of a value, because other times you might think no one likes you when you're a school board member. But Dr. Decker was just special, and I know I speak for everyone when I say a pleasure to serve with, but beyond that, just really, really gave a lot to each of us as board members and all of the kids of Tulsa. And I, again, beyond the ice cream, would resent her for leaving, except that she's going to continue serving the kids of Tulsa. And we'll see her in our ecosystem, and her good and work and her kind heart and her intention and her smarts in the kids of Tulsa when they get to TPS after they come from EduCare. So thank you, Dr. Decker, and if you want to approach the podium, give you your...
I don't really like people talking about me that long or even clapping for me, so sit down. I'm like, Suzanne, come over here so we can finish this up. Again, thank you for, man, your awesome words. And I just want to say I'm just so thrilled. There's so much engagement for my seat. It's a very active political time, and it seems to bring a lot of highs and a lot of lows for that reason. But the caliber of the people applying for my seat, I'm so proud of that. We've lifted the professionalism of this board, and I'm somewhat jealous that one of you will get to go on this journey again, hearing all of the wonderful proposals that are here tonight, and processing through the gray. It's not black and white. So thank you. I so enjoyed serving this whole community. Thank you.
She might formulate some interview questions about whether or not you all are willing to take very late night texts when we're going through an issue, or talk in the car in between meetings 50 times a day. So we're going to miss you, Dr. Decker. I can't stay there too long because I keep going on our agenda, sorry. Our next item is, we'll be moving to hearing from the applicants. And so we received 12 eligible applications for consideration, and you will each have 5 minutes, and that will be a hard 5 minutes. And I'll call you to the podium according to the number that you drew this evening. And do I have the order? Oh, number one. I thought I was going to call your name. Make sure you say your name. Number one.
Good evening. My name is John Walsh, and yes, it is spelled the same as America's Most Wanted. Hopefully that'll help you remember my name and not have trouble spelling it. Greetings, good evening and greetings. Superintendent Gist, board members, district employees, concerned citizens, assembled guests, and my fellow volunteers. I agree with Mrs. Gist's sentiments that the large number of volunteers here speaks highly of the civic health of our city and our district in particular. I'm a resident of District 5 by birth. Excuse me. I'm a resident of District 5 by choice, not by birth. I was born and raised on the South Shore of Long Island, New York. I lived within 5 miles of the shore my entire young life. District 5 is 1,300 miles from the beaches I enjoyed as a youth, and that fact may give you a clue as to how strong a pull the city of Tulsa has on my life. I moved to the Tulsa area in 1982. I've been a resident of District 5 since 2001. I live approximately half a mile from this building. I moved here in 82, met my wife here in 83, and we were married in 85. We raised our 4 daughters here. Each of my daughters was born in Tulsa. They are Tulsans by birth, and my family roots are now very deep here. One could say that I'm a product of the New York State public education system, in that I attended Oceanside Public Schools K through 12, graduating in 1972. Although I did earn a bachelor's in psychology from a private college, I earned an associate's in liberal arts from Nassau Community College, a public school. My younger sister, who is in heaven now, spent her entire 30-plus year career as a special education teacher in Farmingdale, New York. My second oldest daughter earned her master's in special ed from Arizona State University in 2017, and this past Thanksgiving sat for her state certification exams. She's a strong advocate for public schools, and she reminded me of that the other night with leaving no questions about her positions. While our household is not an education family per se, one might say that we are not far from that. I believe it is a function of good citizenship to be aware of and supportive of one's public institutions, and that it is important to serve one's community in a way that enhances the general welfare of all those around you. And that is primarily what I have to offer to you tonight. I do not have a degree. I do not have a career in education. I'm a citizen. I design sidewalks for a living. But I believe it's important for the citizens to be involved. I think that's the purpose of the board, that we have citizens' involvement in this very important public function. I have considered a greater role in public service for many years, but somehow with the responsibilities of raising a family and providing for a family, the time and place never seemed quite right. However, my life has changed. My 4 girls are out in the world finding their own way. My wife of 28 years passed away 5 years ago. That means I have more discretionary time available now than I did while we were raising our children. I see the opportunity to volunteer for the Tulsa School Board as an excellent and timely way to serve the city I love. And to that end, I humbly offer my candidacy. Thank you very much.
Number 2.
Good evening. I'm Brian Hosmer, and I want to thank you all for the opportunity to share my views and introduce myself to the parents and supporters who've gathered here this evening. I find it inspiring to be among so many good citizens willing to step forward, and it makes me optimistic about the future of public education in Tulsa. I applied for this position because I believe public education embodies the very fabric of our community. More than that, it's a tangible expression of our democracy. It demonstrates our willingness, and indeed, you might even say our eagerness, to pool our resources in the interest of the common good. That's democracy in action, not just in words. I'm a product of public education, K through 12, bachelor's degree, and advanced degrees also from public institutions. Before coming to work at TU in 2009, all my employers since leaving college were publicly funded institutions of higher learning. I wouldn't be here but for that expression of democracy. And I like to think that I've tried my best to repay the generous taxpayers who invested in me. I believe I bring a variety of experiences to this position, 25 years in higher education and in diverse settings, small schools, large state universities. My first job was teaching at a community college. I've worked with a wide range of students, from those who benefited from well-funded public high schools to first-generation college students hailing from rural communities and inner cities, and including graduates of private schools. I've worked with students who take the traditional path and those who've held down full-time jobs while raising families. Through them, I've gained insights into the broad spectrum of our educational landscape. At the University of Tulsa, I resurrected the Oklahoma history class, which is specifically geared toward educating future teachers. In Chicago, I designed and administered programs for teachers and curriculum and professional development. I raised funds for these programs and through them learned something I think about the needs of teachers as they balance the daily demands of their jobs with a determination to bring new insights and techniques into class. Those experiences allowed me to build and work with teams and build and learn the habits of collaboration. I'm the spouse of an educator who works in the classroom but spent decades in the area of teacher and curriculum development. I'm a parent of a college senior who had, partly as a consequence of our moving from place to place, a wide variety of experiences. Through that, I think I learned something about parents' efforts to navigate this increasingly complex educational environment, as well as learning something about the varieties of teaching styles. Through all of this, I think I've learned a few lessons. One is a sense of humility. If historians know anything, it's that every generation thinks it has all the answers. That's the human condition. But the fact is, we neither start anew with every generation nor are fully able to see the future. That means we consider where we've been, we understand our limitations, and we listen to multiple perspectives as we move forward. A second lesson is a bit more concrete but no less challenging. I'm committed to educational equity. Like many, I drew inspiration from teachers who made the wrenching decision to step away from their classrooms and the community that supported them and our children and our school through that endeavor. I believe that provided a solid foundation for all of us to move forward. If public schools are an expression of our democracy, they must respond to everyone. We must commit ourselves to educating all of our children. On its face, that's an easy sentiment to get behind. Who wouldn't agree with all of that? But enacting equity is difficult, and it requires careful, respectful, and candid conversations among all stakeholders. It requires listening. I believe that this is one place where the school board comes in. They're conduits between community and school administrators. That's a critical role and a responsibility, and in fact, that's the democracy part. I look forward to the opportunity to serve District 5 and Tulsa Public Schools. I don't have answers to equity questions or a host of other challenges facing this board and the TPS administration in our community. But I do want to offer what I can. I pledge to learn from others, and I pledge to listen to everybody. So thank you for listening to me.
Number 3.
Hello, I'm Sharon Voskel, and I'm a professional engineer. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a college basketball has-been. And most importantly, I'm a wife and a mom. We sent 2 of our 3 boys to Memorial High School. I want to tell you how much fun I've had in TPS. I'm not going to talk about my career or illustrious, whatever. I just had a blast there. We, in addition to sending my 2 boys to Memorial, they took advantage of the engineering curriculum, the basketball program, and the robotics team. We took one student under our wing at the time. We guided and tutored him. He was the first in his family to get a high school degree, and he's going to get his college degree in May. Very proud of that guy. While my sons attended Memorial, I volunteered in a lot of capacities that a lot of mothers do. Proms, homecoming, booster club, landscape committee. I'm most proud of what I've done on the Memorial campus. Chris Hudgens can attest to this. I feel like it's important for our kids to be in a wonderful environment. First thing I saw in 2004, the grounds were bare. So I developed a landscape plan. Up with trees and with the Tulsa Beautification Project, we have a new entrance that is widened, benches, and we planted 100 trees on the campus. Our marquee, if you'll notice, we have a new marquee. We designed it. We raised the funds ourselves to install it. No longer does our band have to go outside and struggle with letters to put up on our marquee, on our ancient marquee, where 7s were L's and 3s were E's. Now we can change the message weekly from the comfort of the classroom indoors. My most fun activity was working on the arena. I hope you've seen it. Athletic Director Robert Sprague and I worked 3 years in advance of the construction. We came in $2 million under budget. We tried to infuse tradition in the Veterans Memorial Arena. We have a flag plaza which displays the military flags. We have bricks underneath it that show the grads that served our country. Now I'm trying to take credit for state championships. We have earned design awards, though, at our arena. I guess my work on the arena may have helped. They've asked me to serve on the bond committees, the development committee, and now I'm on the oversight committee. Another athletic endeavor I'm proud of is that my husband and I, subscribed to a 3-year trial software for concussion monitoring. At TPS, all athletes at TPS now have the ability, when they are hurt on the field or on the court, they can be evaluated at that moment by a laptop or an iPad to see if they have strayed from their baseline with regard to concussion. I think we've made the athletes safer in TPS. So I've had lots of fun so far. I'm looking for more fun in the future. I would love to be part of the STEM Center at the Gathering Place. I would love to be part of Equity Learning. Online classroom is a great possibility for us. I'd love to investigate that. I hope I can make our schools a better place. It's good already. I have an analytical mind. I think I can help with that analysis of data as my predecessor, and I'm at your disposal.
Number 4.
Hi, my name is Brian Carpenter, and it's a little daunting here. You see this clock counting down. You see this group of folks that have made a commitment to be here, and you see parents and the community who's excited about Tulsa Public Schools. Well, first to the board and to Superintendent Gist, thank you for the opportunity to be able to be here in front of you. As noted in our application, our family has made a pretty significant commitment to the Tulsa community. We have a series of collective businesses. Foolish Things Coffee, our son owns 2 of those. I hope you've been there, and I hope you like a cup of joe. I own 2 companies, one a technology and another a consulting company. My wife, and I'd like to introduce her, my wife of 38 years, Marissa Carpenter, is a licensed clinical social worker and has her own practice. Missy, please stand up, baby. And she works. Her focus is on trauma with youth and kids. We're involved with the boards. I'm on the board of Junior Achievement, which means I teach in a classroom at Tulsa Public Schools. I'm on the Tulsa Boys Home board, which breaks my heart that we have to have that, but I'm delighted that we do. My daughter is on the board of Big Brothers and Big Sisters. We are focused on the youth of this community. When we made this decision to pursue a board seat, I had a chance to talk with Ms. Decker. Little did I know that she had the aura that she has and the respect, but no doubt what an honor to hear these words. And I examined her background. I examined the backgrounds of the other board members. I had one question Do I have the skills or the experiences that can be complementary to what they do? And I hope that the answer to that is yes. Experience has taught me this, that the most effective boards are made up of people who have a shared common goal with an open mind and a willingness to have conversation, direct conversation, one with another, to learn around that common goal. And the way I see this is a preparation of our kids for the market. I'm in business, and in what I do when I consult with companies all throughout Oklahoma and other parts of the country, one theme comes up over and over again. We want to have access to qualified young people to bring into our places of employment. And it breaks my heart that in many instances, I have companies I work with that make decisions to not make investment locally and move their businesses or some part of what they do outside of our community. That's wrong. If you take a look at what the Chamber of Commerce is saying, they say the #1 attraction to bringing folks into Oklahoma, businesses into Oklahoma, is this: a well-educated workforce. We profoundly believe that. So the question that faces us then really is this: is an adopted Greek boy who grew up in Oklahoma City, who went off to school, has a master's degree from Oklahoma State, moved away with IBM, and moved all over God's green earth, who came back to Oklahoma, has a wife of 38 years, who is invested in his actions, in his business, and now through his 3.5-year-old granddaughter, who graciously lives in Brady Heights and may be going to that Montessori school that's right across the street. Would I have the skills that could complement the skills that exist up here? I hope so. I thank this community for the excitement that they have for this seat, and I thank you all for listening to me today. Thank you.
Number 5.
Good evening. My name is Shane Saunders. Madam President, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you briefly tonight. In my application for this vacancy, I included the bulk of my biographical information and background. So in the interest of time, I will not repeat those details other than to highlight the most important part. By far, my best accomplishment and highest responsibility is that I'm the father of 2 little girls, ages 8 and 5. My oldest is in 2nd grade at Elliott Elementary, our neighborhood school, and my youngest will be in kindergarten this fall. I've had the pleasure to be involved at Elliott for the past 3 years in a variety of volunteer roles. And it's my proximity to how great our schools and the dedicated educators and faculty are that has sparked my interest to serve Team Tulsa as a board member. I approached this position having served on the boards of several Tulsa-based organizations, most recently as chairman of the board for Iron Gate, Tulsa's largest emergency food pantry and community meal. Because of my past service to nonprofits, businesses, and trade associations, I know that there is a big difference between governance and management. The role of the board of directors is as the governing body. This board sets the tone, policies, vision, and guidance for Team Tulsa and works to ensure that the resources and support our professionals are in place to allow them to execute for the benefit of all of our stakeholders and, most importantly, our children. I believe that I bring a set of unique skills that would be of benefit to our district. Aside from a dad's perspective, I have a track record of bringing people of diverse and sometimes contentious opinions together to reach great outcomes for our city. Most recently, as part of a dedicated group of board members, I led the effort to construct a facility for Iron Gate at a new location in downtown Tulsa. This required 3 years of work to bring varying viewpoints of government officials, developers, residents, community activists, funders, and others together in order to accomplish something that many deemed impossible. I had to build relationships in order to foster trust, and at times had to stand up to very powerful people to advocate for Tulsa's most vulnerable citizens. Sometimes it felt like taking a step forward only to take several backwards, and I'm sure that there are many in this room tonight who can sympathize with that sentiment. The lesson learned, however, was to never give up. Tulsa Public Schools face a variety of challenges and opportunities. Among these are questions of equity, declining enrollment, financial constraint with never-ending budgetary pressure, attendance, encroachment from distance learning schools, and a, shall we say, complicated relationship with the legislative and executive branches of our state government. Individually, any one of these issues is difficult. Together, they may seem insurmountable. However, I know that we can work together to arrive at solutions that will make our schools the envy of our peers. We also have the opportunity to better tell our story. Too many in our community are unaware of the truly miraculous events that occur between the bells each day in our schools. More often than not, Tulsa at large has an impression of public education that does not meet reality. The mental picture of a typical school and school day that many Tulsans hold is completely incorrect. I know because I was once a skeptic. We have the chance to reframe the debate around education funding and to demonstrate with concrete and tangible examples the importance of the hard work that our professionals do each and every day. We can turn other skeptics into our biggest advocates. These tasks will require both diligence and patience, but building on the work of those that came before us, we will tackle those challenges and forge progress. Our community depends on it, and our stakeholders deserve it. I'm asking you tonight to allow me to join my voice with yours so that we can strengthen our resolve, grow our success, and confront our challenges. I hope to have the opportunity to visit with each of you in more detail, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you have. Again, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak with you this evening, and thank you for your dedication to Team Tulsa and to our children.
Number 6.
Hello, everyone. I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. My name is John Croissant. And again, Cindy, the school board, administrators, everyone is here for the same reason that I'm here, which is our kids. It's all about students. When I grew up here, my mom went to Edison. I'm a fourth-generation Oklahoman. I went to Jinx Public Schools and then graduated from the University of Tulsa. But the spring semester, my junior year, I had a political science degree, pre-law certificate. I decided that I would basically give back my whole life to educating kids. I got a secondary education degree. I started coaching high school soccer, starting as a volunteer at Jinx High School. And I coached another 20 years of high school soccer until this last year. I got into education after getting my degree. I needed to get some more social studies stuff to do, so I went ahead and I substitute taught at Jinx until I got my first position teaching in New Orleans, Louisiana, at a public school in Jefferson Parish. And then going on to Catholic school, De La Salle High School, I taught U.S. history and world history until Hurricane Katrina. And my wife and I had a decision to make. She lost her job, and we decided, you know what? We want to go back to Tulsa because this is where we wanted to raise our family. Because we had a great education system. And I wanted to be a part of that. I taught at Bishop Kelly for 1 year. They took me in. Halfway through the year, I substituted again. I coached soccer, and they allowed me to, they basically gave me a teacher salary after coming in August, after everything had already started. And I'm really happy with that. But it was really the next year when Steve Mayfield hired me at Edison that I really found my calling. I spent 12 years at Edison teaching 6th grade pre-AP geography and coaching the high school soccer team, the girls team. And I had a great run. I absolutely love geography. Actually, did my 13th year of the geography bee at Edison this last January, and but what I saw was that in the 12 years I was at Edison, every year there was more and more difficulties to teach, to do what we love to do as educators, to help take care of those kids that it's our job to make sure they get the right education that they could get. And so in 2016, I decided that I would run for office. I ran for the House of Representatives in South Tulsa and lost, but I was one of the kind of early teacher candidates. Myself and John Waldron were teachers, and we got out there, and I knocked on 5,000 doors. And with $3,500, I got 25% of the vote. And so that got me started. I got involved with Oklahomans for Public Education, a Facebook group. I've been involved with the TCTA, with lobbying, and making sure that we're giving our teachers and our students what they need to be successful. And again, all I've seen is that what we have here in Tulsa is we have a great city. We've invested in it. We're wanting to get better and better, but we need to support our schools. We need to listen to everybody in our community, not just one group. And if we can do that, we can help make everybody a little bit better. And in the end, it comes back to my son, who is a 5th grader at Eisenhower. Next year, he's going to be an Eagle over at Edison. And he's excited for that opportunity. I want every kid to have that, to be able to say, you know what, I want to go to school every day. And as a board, our job, hopefully that's my job, is to be able to go in and say, how can we help teachers do their job better? How can we make sure that every student is getting a great opportunity and a great education to grow our city? All right? Thank you, folks.
Number 7.
Good evening, and thank you to the board and Dr. Gist for this opportunity. My name is J.J. Burnham. I'm a District 5 resident and a TPS parent. Like everyone in this room, I have a stake in the success of Tulsa Public Schools. From my oldest daughter's first day in kindergarten to my youngest daughter's future graduation, I am just past the halfway point on a 31-year journey as a TPS parent. Like any parent, my 4 girls are everything to me. And there's nothing like watching them learn, grow, and discover more about the world around them each day. My wife Christy and I appreciate our girls enduring a certain amount of struggle, overcoming challenges, persevering in failure, and building a healthy resilience to life's inevitable disappointments. We teach them to be kind, civil, and respectful to everyone. And they're pretty good at it except to each other. We're not perfect parents, but we do our best. Professionally, I work full-time at Cimarex Energy as a data architect. My job is to empower our people in the company with ready access to the valuable data that they need to make important company decisions. In my job, I work to understand complex problems, and to do that effectively, I need to hear differing points of view. I seek input and healthy debate, and I strive for stakeholder consensus on new initiatives, strategic goals, and important decisions. This type of collaboration involves respectfully challenging one another's ideas and beliefs, a willingness for everyone at the table to confront our own biases and preconceptions. It isn't always pretty, but it works. I've made a difference at Cimarex, and I'll bring that same collaborative attitude and work ethic to make a difference on the Board of Education. I've devoted my volunteer time to helping children. I've served on the Zero PTA board and helped out on the annual talent show for the past 5 years. I volunteered as a pre-K storybook reader at Tulsa Educare's Kendall Whittier School, and I have worked one-on-one with struggling readers as a reading partner at Mark Twain Elementary. As a member of the TPS school board, I would bring this same passion for lifting up every child in our community. TPS teachers and educators know that this parent has your back. I have your back as an active public school dad. I had your back during the walkout, and I had your back when I knocked on thousands of doors during my campaign last year for the Oklahoma State House of Representatives. Teachers, I gave 7 months of my time and energy to elevating the importance of funding public education in Oklahoma. You can bet I'll have your back as a member of this board. These are challenging times for public education. We just learned in the last week that over 400 TPS students have left our district schools for a virtual charter school. We have the unfortunate distinction of leading the state in emergency teacher certifications. And we wait to learn if our legislature will follow through and truly make funding public education normal, not just the occasional historic achievement. But I believe we can overcome these challenges. There's too much talent and energy in this community, and I believe our brightest days lay ahead. Yesterday, we paused to honor Martin Luther King Jr., so let me close with some of Dr. King's words that inspire me. We must live together as brothers, or we will all perish together as fools. Friends, we are in this together. Teachers, support staff, administrators, board members, families, and the community at large. If we are to succeed, we must work together on the challenging problems at hand. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I come to be a good partner, a listener, and a learner. I understand the commitment of being a TPS policymaker. I have the skills, I have the heart, and I have the will to put in the work alongside each of you to elevate our district. I come ready to put in the time to understand the problems we face and to collaborate on solutions that heighten opportunity for every child in this community. Members of the board, I come to you here tonight prepared to serve, and I respectfully ask for your consideration to fill the District 5 seat. Thank you very much.
Number 8.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Lindsay Barbour. I attended my first Tulsa Public Schools board meeting in 2015 with the organization Stand for Children. We presented a parent-driven proposal for the strategic plan. The diverse group of parents met multiple times to discuss vital factors that we believe should be included. The cover page of our proposal said, meaningful learning plus effective teachers plus supported parents equals success TPS. I still believe this to be true. To quote from our letter to the board, the new strategic plan must include a vision which leads all children, regardless of background, to reach their full potential and graduate TPS prepared for and with access to college and career training. I became very emotional after that presentation because I was thinking about how my own 2 sons, a 5th grader and a 1st grader at Council Oak Elementary, would be shaped by TPS over the remaining 5-year period. The final strategic plan, Destination Excellence, really brought our recommendations into consideration. The core values adopted of equity, excellence, team, and joy create a strong foundation to ensure all students in Tulsa have a key to a future with endless possibilities. I was given an opportunity with Stand for Children to also advocate for state funding for education. I spoke at the rollout for State Question 779 as a parent advocate, and that was the penny sales tax for education. And I'm glad I was able to support that initiative, even though it didn't pass. As we all know, the education funding crisis in our state is a huge barrier for this district's ability to accomplish our strategic plan's objectives. And it will have lasting effects on our ability as a state to compete globally. As a board member, I would utilize my skills as a CPA to analyze the TPS budget and look for opportunities to use the available resources for maximum results. I would also be committed to continuing to advocate for additional funding from the state legislature. Last year, I attended multiple board meetings because of the name change for Lee Elementary School. I was able to watch the board grapple with this tough topic, weighing input from community members with the district's core values to come to their final decision. I would stay for the entire meeting oftentimes and see the other issues that were brought before the board. And people were passionate about everything, pretty much. And I understand why, because it's our children that we were talking about. My
realizations that I had watching those meetings take place was that the topics that are brought before the board are complex, and there are multiple viewpoints and opinions that must be considered. And that also that the Tulsa board has such a direct impact on the Tulsa community and on our students, which are our future. As a board member, I would be committed to listening first and then analyzing all available data and information before deciding how to vote on agenda items. Actively participating in civic engagement related to the name change has had a deep impact on my life personally. Our school community had to navigate tough conversations and find ways to compromise and communicate with one another. My awakening to a deeper understanding of the realities of racism in our culture began around 5 years ago, but engaging in a real situation with people I cared about, involving my own children, helped those revelations sink in and become a permanent part of who I am. This in large part drove me to put my name in for consideration for this board position. For the past 8 years, I was a professor of accounting at Tulsa Community College. I worked with students recently graduated, some that were rising stars in honors classes, and many others who were unprepared and wrestling through remedial courses. I saw the unique challenges that students of color often faced, such as the struggle for dreamers to find college funding sources since they couldn't get access to financial aid, or how students often struggle to find role models in the faculty who look like them. I saw students wrestle with transportation issues, food insecurity, etc., while continuing their education. The students who found success at TCC often had certain commonalities. They had developed resilience and refused to give up. And the most common thing I heard from them was that they had at least one teacher who believed in them. One teacher with high standards who expected a lot, but helped them see they could rise to the challenge. The board's responsibility is to support the teachers who are at the front lines every day with our youth in their hands.
Dr. Gist and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Misty Ryan, and I am seeking to be appointed to the District 5 seat. I'm the mother of 3 Tulsa Public Schools students. 2 of our sons are in the 9th and 11th grade at Edison, and our youngest son is in 7th grade at Thoreau. My children have attended neighborhood community schools, as well as lottery and magnet schools throughout TPS. My oldest son is enrolled in Tulsa Tech, and my youngest is on an IEP, so I share a multitude of common experiences with parents from across the district. I applied for the District 5 position because I'm passionate about advocating for and serving all students and families in TPS. This passion is apparent in the various ways I have volunteered throughout the years. Starting at Kendall Whittier, where my children went for elementary school, I chaperoned field trips and presented to the community about the tools available for parents from the district, like Power School, so that they could monitor their students' progress. Once our oldest was in middle school at Thoreau, I joined the PTSA and built a strong social media presence over the past 6 years to help facilitate communication to the parents. I implemented a monthly newsletter to celebrate student achievements and further improve communication. As PTSA president, I established an annual back-to-school event for parents to meet each other, as well as the teachers and staff, to enhance the sense of community around the school. And while I am known for being a band mom, I also support athletics as the president of the Thoreau Athletic Boosters. When our younger 2 moved to Mayo to finish elementary school, I spent 2 years as PTSA treasurer. At Edison, my time has been spent volunteering with the marching band as the booster treasurer for the past 3 years, organizing uniforms, transporting equipment, and feeding the students before every football game. I've also worked at schedule pickup and chaperoned school dances and the prom. I am deeply connected with 2 of the schools in District 5. All of these volunteer experiences have given me the opportunity to spend time with the diverse student body of TPS, students from all over Tulsa who work hard to overcome challenges and look forward to what the future holds. Working for these students and all of the students of TPS as a member of the board would be an immense privilege. While I am passionate about serving the students and families of TPS, I believe the skills I've acquired through my professional life and educational endeavors will also be a benefit to the school board. For the past 16 years, I've worked for a large nonprofit health system here in Tulsa. In that same time, I've completed a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. My days are spent writing queries to extract data, analyzing complex data sets, and reviewing financial statements. As a member of management, I have employees who report to me, and I have experience completing annual evaluations. I understand the importance of thoughtful communication and compromise. When I was a child, my grandmother worked for the housing authority in the town where she lived, assisting families to get access to affordable housing. She heard the mothers, mostly single parents, struggling to work and raise their families, complain about the difficulties of scheduling around half-day kindergarten. She knew that having access to full-day kindergarten would be a huge benefit to the people in her community. She ran for school board and was elected. As a result, the school in her community was one of the first in Oklahoma to offer all-day kindergarten. My grandmother listened to the issues that faced the people in her community, and she worked hard to provide a solution. That is the kind of school board member I want to be. I want to be a difference maker, and I want to be a bridge builder. I want to serve the students and families of District 5 and all of Tulsa. As the daughter of an Oklahoma educator, I want to serve the teachers and staff as well. I know that my professional experience, my educational background, and my skills and talents would be beneficial to the board. I'm grateful and humbled to everyone who has reached out on my behalf and encouraged me in this process. Thank you, Dr. Gist and members of the board, for allowing me to speak, and thank you for considering me for the District 5 school board position.
Number 10.
Good evening. My name is Virginia Pendleton, and I'm happy to be here tonight to talk about my application for District 5. First I'd like to review my own background and then share what I would like to accomplish if appointed. I was a student at TPS from kindergarten through 9th grade in East Tulsa, and I had many excellent teachers. I'd like to mention 3 of my favorite teachers. Mr. Schubach, my 7th grade earth science teacher, also known as the mad scientist, used a college-level textbook. And he advised us to study at least 1 to 3 hours every night just for his class. Mr. Schubach demanded respect and discipline. Passing notes or whispering resulted in after-school detention. Although Mr. Schubach was very strict and demanding, he was very popular, and there was always a waiting list to get into his elective classes. My 9th grade English teacher, Mrs. Sorge, insisted that we learn proper English grammar so that we did not grow up to be underwater basket weavers. Mrs. Sorge later won Teacher of the Year for TPS, and it was well deserved. My 9th grade typing teacher, Mr. Smith, required us to type 100 words per minute accurately on a manual typewriter in order to get an A. And believe it or not, many students achieved that. Did you notice a pattern among my favorite teachers? They all challenged us, disciplined us, and believed in us. The average class size in my elementary school was over 30 students per teacher. My 2nd grade class had 37 students. Nevertheless, students were respectful, well-behaved, they worked hard, and learned well. The worst behavior I can recall was an occasional spitball. Corporal punishment was allowed, but rarely needed or used. and suspensions were virtually unheard of. After leaving TPS, I earned 3 college degrees in the sciences. I pursued a career in the oil and gas industry and later started my own consulting business. I also founded a college prep micro school which produced a commended National Merit Scholar and ACT scores in the top 3 to 5 percentile. It's surprising how much TPS has changed since I was a student there. It seems that test scores are down and behavior problems are up. I know it does not have to be that way. Teachers, parents, and students can all work together to make TPS great again. I share the vision of our new governor to make Oklahoma a top 10 state in education, and I believe that TPS can be the best district in the entire state. If appointed to the board, I would work hard to achieve that goal. Thank you for considering me Virginia Pendleton for District 5. I would be honored to serve. Thank you.
Number 11. Number 11.
Hello, my name's Pam Williams. I've lived in Tulsa since 2008. I have observed TPS as it grows and meets the challenges of the 21st century. I read your strategic plan, including your core values, equity, character, excellence, team, and joy. I also read your stated beliefs as well as your habits of success. I commend you for all of those things. You did a great job, and if some of you haven't read all of that, you need to, because it is really a wonderful tool for anyone that is working in Tulsa Public Schools or an educator in the Tulsa Public Schools. In order to support this outstanding school, I believe my values as TPS board member is my past educational and work experiences, combined with my ability to listen and learn about new and better ways to educate our children. A board member, I believe, should be ready to investigate and introduce new ideas in education. I'm very interested in learning about new and better ways to bring the educational experience to our children, and I love to imagine what is possible. I have 5 children and 8 grandchildren, so I think I'm up with some of the people that are here today. I did enjoy watching my children grow up. 4 of our children graduated from Edmond Public Schools, and the other one from Durant. And it was very interesting to watch the differences in those 2 schools. My husband and I spent 21 years of our adult lives living on 2 university campuses. I watched firsthand as my 18-year-old freshman kids walked across our campus in September as frightened children and left our school after 4 years as educated adults ready to take on the world. Every child can achieve that result. However, when the child is prepared for university and higher education studies at an excellent preparatory high school, it makes the transition so much easier and less stressful, and more likely to end in success. I know the same applies for students who choose to enter the workforce right out of high school graduation. Our challenge is to ensure that they have every chance to succeed. Likewise, every school in the TPS system deserves the same chance for success. I certainly believe that the citizens of Tulsa are ready to support education. In the recent Gallup City Voice poll of 4,400 plus Tulsas responding to that poll, the top 3 priorities named in all quadrants of our city was better schools. In my former careers in economic development for the state of Oklahoma, I observed that one of the first things listed by companies when they look to relocate is the community's public school system. By the way, cities listed in the top cities of the Gallup City Voice poll were Raleigh, North Carolina, Nashville, Louisville, Tucson, and Denver. I want to help Tulsa join that top cities. If appointed to the TPS board, I will use all my past experiences in education and economic development, as well as my past service to over a dozen boards, including Tahlequah Boys and Girls Club, the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame, and the First Lutheran Early Learning Center here in Tulsa as board members. And I look forward to learning more about the school system, and if I can be of service, I stand ready to work. Thank you.
Number 12.
Dr. Gist, to the board members, to the citizens and volunteers, my name is Rebecca Marks Jimerson, and I seek to be appointed to fill the remaining term of Dr. Cindy Decker, District 5. I've been a resident of District 5 for many years and also a business owner in the district. My knowledge and experience have prepared me for serving as school board member. I have 27 years at Tulsa Community College, career counselor, academic advisor, working with students where they are. I'm not a parent, but all of the students that I work with, I consider those my students, my mentors, that I've mentored, and also I've been a parent to them. So because of my diverse background in working in higher ed, in student development and outreach, developing and delivering programs and services to our children for career and college readiness, many of those programs at Tulsa Community College are still there today. Of course, they've been redesigned for effectiveness, but they still carry on, such as the Day of Vision. Also, as an adjunct instructor at Tulsa Community College and Southern Nazarene today. So I feel prepared, and my passion as I was looking at the blueprint for this district, the future is right here. And as many of you stated, you looked at the beliefs and core beliefs. I was looking at the values of equity and inclusion. All children deserve the opportunity to develop their full academic and social potential. Who I am academically, what I can achieve, what I can be assessed to know this is where I fit into the workforce. To be who I am, inclusiveness. Then looking also at the beliefs that all district, we're all in, and our community is essential. That's why all of you are here today. Stakeholders, parents, all the district. And the blueprint plan is not just for teachers, but if you look at it and read it as you've said, it also is for the staff, for the Education Service Center. The blueprint here is for everyone, has buy-in to make this school, to make the schools that we have what they are. I am a product of Tulsa Public Schools. So I know, and you all know, there is, in the schools, there is greatness. It exists, it is here, and it continues. So I'd like to leave you with, I would love to be part of the team, the ability to work as a team member, and the willingness to spend the time required to become informed, and, as we all say, to do the homework. I want to do the homework so I can be an effective board member. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks to the applicants for putting in the time to your remarks and really helping us learn about you. We will be going into an executive session much later in the meeting, and at that time, per statute, we'll discuss the appointment and come and report what we've decided there. But for now, we're going to proceed with the rest of the business of the meeting. And if you're prepping for being a school board member, that's what it is, a long night. So you're welcome. If you are not able to stay, Cindy Hutchings will be happy to contact you about what happens in the executive session and afterwards. But we're going to proceed with other business now. At this time, we need to appoint a vice president. With Dr. Decker leaving, she was serving in the role as vice president. So we I'll entertain a motion for vice president. Mr. Percival?
President Schreiber, I nominate Shauna Keller to the office of vice president of the board.
Is there a second?
Second. I'll second.
I've served with Shauna before and feel like anyone could be paired up and serve well with Shauna. She only really puts the brakes on you when it's real, real serious for her. Most of the time she's, okay, let's go. But I would be honored to serve with her again in my role as president. And to be honest, I think anyone on the board could work together. And any combo of us would work. But I appreciate Shauna being willing to step up and fill in. Is there any other questions or comments? I'll call for the vote. Ms. Fate?
Aye.
Aye.
No, you're supposed to vote.
Aye.
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 I wasn't sure if I wanted to vote. As I said earlier, Cindy's shoes are really big.
Well, welcome aboard, Shauna, again, back to vice president role. And we'll move to our consent agenda now. Just as a reminder, the consent agenda are matters that were on information in the past, and we have run through them, asked questions, worked them over, and now we approve them typically as an omnibus unless there's an objection. And you'll be reminded later that the information agenda is distinct from that, as is the action agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent?
Second.
Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? I'll call for the vote. Ms. Fate?
Aye.
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 Aye. From there, we'll move to the action agenda. We have 3 items there this evening. The first is F1, to approve an agreement with Hilborn and Weidman, PC, to serve as bond counsel and disclosure counsel on the district's combined purpose general obligation bond, Series 2019. On our bond matters, the district engages experts for these services in connection with the bond issuing to ensure compliance with the many rules and regulations governing the sale of bonds. So we use counsel. And recent SEC review and enforcement actions related to continuing disclosure, the bond counsel role has been expanded to include a disclosure counsel responsibility. Under the reference bond counsel and disclosure counsel engagement, bond counsel fee would be $13,000 and disclosure counsel fee would be $8,000 for a total of $21,000 payable from bond proceeds. I'll entertain a motion to approve F1.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions or discussions on item F1? I'll call for the vote. Ms. Wester?
Aye.
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 Aye. F2 is a recommendation to approve an agreement for registrar and paying agent services with BOKF-NA on the district's combined purpose general obligations bonds, Series 2019A. A registrar and paying agent is necessary to administrate properly the sale and receipt of bond funds. We've used BOK in the past, and they've done an excellent job. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Do I have a second? Any questions on the registrar and agent? Item F2? Okay. I'll call for the vote. Ms. Wester?
Aye.
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 Aye. And finally, on bond matters, approve a resolution fixing the amount of combined purpose general obligation bonds, Series 2019A, to mature each year, fixing the time and place the bonds are to be sold, approving the preliminary official statement, and authorizing distribution of same, authorizing the clerk to give notice of said sales as required by law, and approving other matters related to the issuance of the district's combined purpose general obligation bonds, Series 2019A. The resolution authorizes the issuance of $15,395,000 in building bonds and $7,105,000 in classroom learning material bonds. The 2019A bonds in the aggregate amount of $22,500,000 would be sold on February 19th and approved and awarded at the board's February 19th, 2019 meeting, with proceeds made available to the district on or about April 2nd, 2019. Upon issuance of these bonds, there would be $166,445,000 in bonds remaining to be sold from the 2015 authorization. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any questions regarding this item? I'll call for the vote. Ms. Fate?
Aye.
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 Aye. From there, we'll go to our information agenda, and Dr. Gist will manage that portion of the agenda for us.
Thank you, Madam President. As a reminder, information items come before the board for their consideration and for discussion, and they're not acted upon during a meeting. If they do come before the board for an action, that will come on the agenda. They will either be on the consent agenda or possibly on an action agenda item at a future meeting. So we'll start with item G1. This is a routine item that recommends entering into a contract with Gilcrease Museum to host the McLean High School prom on April 27th, 2019. I don't know, Ms. Marshall, if you have your dress yet, but so that's item G1. Item G2 and G3 will be presented by our Chief of Talent and Learning, Devin Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Dr. Gist, Madam President, and members of the board. Item G2 supports routine talent item, which allows for us to continue work for the district. There are two roles that pertain to the talent management team and one that relates to student and family support services that expand social emotional learning support. I will pause and see if there are any questions there. Item G3 enters into a memorandum of understanding with the City of Tulsa for Tulsa, Oklahoma, to provide Vision Tulsa funding for recruitment, retention, and training of teachers. This proposal is for the 2018-2019 school year. What's really exciting about the Vision Tulsa proposal is that it allows for the district to receive $1.4 million in additional funding over the next 7 years, which will enable us to support the work of our novice teachers who are entering into the district, expanded professional learning opportunities, and expansion of our induction program, which will serve students for years to come. As many people know, we see about 25% of our teaching population turnover every year. One of the stabilizing goals for this is to ensure that as a collective Tulsa, that we are working to ensure that advancement of supports for teachers and also strategies to retain. And so super excited about this proposal and for the partnership with the city.
And we do have a speaker on this item, Mr. Nick Doctor, the City of Tulsa's Chief of Community Development and Policy. So, Mr. Doctor, if you want to come forward.
I will be incredibly brief because you have a lengthy agenda ahead of you, and Devin has already covered it in beautiful detail. But as a poor substitute for Mayor Bynum, I just wanted to be here to say how grateful we are for this partnership with TPS and our ability to directly help you in your teacher retention and recruitment efforts. Dr. Gist, this is in so many ways your brainchild when we were putting the Vision Tulsa package together, and we were asking for how we could help TPS in particular. So thank you for coming to us with this idea. We're excited to be able to execute on it now and to help out where we can. So thank you very much, and thank you also to Paula, Devin, and Emily who helped craft this on your team.
Thank you, Nick. Really quickly to remind everybody, that was part of a vision package that was approved by the voters of Tulsa. So our last several items came from the support of the citizens of Tulsa, and we never want to forget that that's what makes TPS successful, is that community engagement and community support. And so grateful for that, and grateful for all the people that work to implement that broader support that is out in the community, and the ways in which we can think about it and make it real.
I'm glad you made that connection, Madam President, actually, because when we have bonds or something like the vote on the vision package, it truly is every single Tulsan whose voice is heard in those votes. So thank you for pointing that out. I do appreciate Mayor Bynum's leadership and everyone on the team there, Mr. Doctor, for your partnership, and the City Council as well. We really appreciated working together on this. This is a portion of the vision commitment to Tulsa Public Schools. There's also a very significant portion going into safety items around schools, which we've talked about at these meetings before as well. So really appreciate the support from the City of Tulsa. Are there any questions or comments about this item? Okay, moving on. Item G4 will be presented by our Chief Information and Analytics Officer, Stephen Fedor. Mr. Fedor.
Thank you, Dr. Guest, President Schreiber, members of the board. Item G4 is a recommendation to enter into a contract with Catalent Technologies out of Boston, Massachusetts, to provide expert support to the IT and data teams aimed at improving processes and practices related to information and data governance. The total cost is not to exceed $495,000 coming from grant funds. They're aimed at that. The rationale here is that Catalent Technology is a leading company in providing hands-on and in-person support. With rapid changes in technology and information practices, there is a need to consistently reassess and refine the way that we're working with information and our own practices and processes internally. The goal here is to have the industry experts from Catalent work with individuals in small groups to provide real-time feedback and coaching, in addition to providing the IT leadership team with recommendations for improvement to specific processes and practices. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Fedor. So moving on, item G5 will be presented by our Executive Director of Bond Projects, Mr. Chris Hudgens. Mr. Hudgens.
Thank you, Superintendent Guest, President Schreiber, and board members. Item G5 is routine in nature. It's to approve supplement number 9 for the master contract with Nabholz Construction to act as our construction manager for interior improvements at the Edison Preparatory School. And this is part of the 2015 bond plan. Are there any questions?
We do have one speaker on this item, Mr. Huffhines.
2019, Bright with Promise. Greetings to our Honorable Superintendent, Dr. Gist, our Madam President, Suzanne Schreiber, and each of our Honorable Tulsa Public School Board members and honorable staff and team. We are grateful for all the teachers and citizens of this great city, Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's a joy to be with you on this 22nd day of January in the year of our loving Lord, Jesus Christ, 2019. Yes. G5, recommendation. Approve supplement number 9 to the master contract with Nabholz Construction Corporation, Tulsa, Oklahoma, found online. This year, they're making their 70th year in the construction business, and it appears they have 9 offices in 4 states. They were a key part of the building of Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in Bentonville, Arkansas, and seem to have a sound history. Commending the TPS team on their selection of this company to provide the construction management for the interior renovations at Edison Preparatory School. Edison Preparatory School was named after Thomas Edison, who apparently stated, "My mother was the making of me." Nancy Matthews Elliott Edison was a devout Presbyterian, a denomination in which Christ and God's Word, the Holy Bible, were and are honored. May we continue to honor the good book in our schools. I'm grateful for our brilliant instructors at Edison shining into our children and thereby lighting up our future. Thank you, President Schreiber, for your excellent leadership.
Thank you.
Items G6 and G7 will be presented by our Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Jorge Robles. Mr. Robles.
Thank you, Superintendent Gist, Madam President, members of the board. Item G6 is a recommendation to amend item 36 of the June 20th, 2016 board agenda to extend the lease agreement with Tulsa Children's Coalition 10 years, starting on July 1st of 2021, ending in June 30th, 2031. This extension will essentially allow us to continue the partnership and meet the district needs on providing services for 4-year-olds and their families at ECDC Bunch. Are there any questions on that item? Moving on to item G7, this is a recommendation to purchase a print center color production unit from Rico USA, cost not to exceed $115,000. As part of the print services that we provide to schools and district departments through our partnership with Rico, we have centralized capabilities to support large jobs and more complex jobs that are done with higher quality and better services and lower cost. So this purchase essentially is part of the plan to increase that capacity and support strategic projects such as our fabulous report cards that we're now doing. Are there any questions?
You stated on item G6 that it was ECDC Bunch.
It's our ACDC Read. I apologize.
Thank you. Are there other questions on that matter, Ms. Wester?
I have a question about G7. Are we saying that we're bringing back the print shop?
No, this is part of the services that we do through our partnership with Rico. We have centralized services already exist that actually help us increase the quality and number of services we provide for school leaders to do bigger jobs with us. This will help us continue to increase that capacity to serve strategic projects like the report card.
Okay. Gracias.
De nada.
Ms. Keller.
I'm sorry, Mr. Robles. Can we go back to G6 real fast?
Yes.
ECDC Read?
Yes, ECDC Read.
Did we reopen ECDC Read?
So when we made the changes to ECDC Read, what we did was remove the Tulsa Public Schools classrooms that were there, but we do have education that's happening there. It's happening in partnerships. So
correct.
Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, so essentially we have a lease agreement where they provide services, and this actually will help us extend that lease so that they can continue to provide the services and they continue to do the capital improvements and the work that needs to be done to provide strong services.
To be very specific, CAP Tulsa is our partner there.
Yes.
Any other questions, board members, on any of these information items? No other questions. So we'll move to item H, Dr. Guest.
Thank you.
Okay, do you want to?
You will probably remember that we formed a North Tulsa task force, and that's the next item that we're going to discuss. They're going to be coming forth with their recommendation. The board will receive and discuss that this evening. This concerns the education of students living in the McLean feeder pattern, which includes ECDC Bunch, elementary schools Anderson, CLA Clinton, Gilcrease Hawthorne, Sequoia, Springdale, Penn, Unity, and Whitman in McLean 7th Grade Academy, Monroe Demonstration, and McLean High Schools. So the presentation of the information this evening is going to include the task force recommendation regarding the McLean 7th Grade Academy, and the implications of those recommendations on school configuration, programming, and facility use at the schools. So I think Dr. Giss is going to elaborate on the formation of the task force.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Well, the board members certainly recall, and I know many members of the Tulsa community recall, and I'm confident many people in joining us here tonight in person recall that back in the spring of last school year, we engaged in some community conversations about some potential considerations about the education of the students who were being educated at the McLean 7th grade center. And we had a recommendation on the table that we were sharing with community members regarding moving those 7th graders back to the McLean Junior Senior High School building to have it be a junior senior high school. We knew then and we know now that with declining enrollment at the McLean 7th grade center, as well as given that it was a 1 grade level school, a very, very small school, that the students there were not able to have access to the same wide range of programming available to their peers in other parts of the district, other 7th graders in other parts of the district. And so when we had that conversation last year, what we heard very clearly from community members, from parents, from other family members and loved ones, from teachers, from community leaders, was that we needed a solution that was not the one that we were recommending. And so we recognize that there is a need for change, that a 1 grade level school means multiple transitions for students. It means the less of an ability to build community, to have students known well over many years by folks in a school, as well as limits the district from being able to provide the same access to programming. But we needed a different solution. That was what we heard from the community. And so we wanted to make sure that we were taking a look at the feeder pattern to understand the rich, robust, and rigorous learning experiences that our students deserve, what they had access to, and what we needed to improve upon. And we thought about how to do this. And what we know is that one of our core beliefs is that our community is essential. And our schools are vital to the health of our community, and we have to work together as a team with community members. We also knew that there had been, for many years, decades perhaps, a failure on the part of the school district to deliver on promises. And there were fits and starts with different efforts and initiatives, and all of that was resulting in a lack of trust between members of the community and the school district. We also knew that we were struggling to do all the things that we needed to do to serve students. We have so many initiatives going that are high quality and we're seeing real gains, but we need the community's partnership. And so we reached out together, and we're so grateful to have Reverend M.C. Potter, who agreed to take on an important leadership role to take this effort and lead it and bring a group of folks together. He needed a representative group of community leaders to provide insight and to collaborate with him. And so Board Member Marshall, with her leadership, and I talked with many people in the community and received recommendations for names of folks to serve on the task force. We wanted to make sure that we had folks from many different parts of the professional landscape, from multiple generations, with folks who've been educators, so there are a number of educators on the task force, including 2 of my former educators. And the task force took on this focus about what is the right solution for our 7th graders. And then, of course, it has, you can't have that conversation without discussing more broadly what's happening in our schools. So the task force has worked so hard for many months, and I will tell you, it has been really remarkable to see the incredible time commitment and effort and energy and passion that they've put into this project. And we have they've been using a set of guiding principles that include the following. All students must have access to exceptional learning experiences. All students must have equitable opportunities to access specialized programs. All teachers and school leaders must experience exceptional conditions and supports. And the Tulsa Public Schools must ensure fiscally responsible investments in our programs and facilities. We provided them with a binder of information that had all of the data around performance, where we've seen growth, like in our graduation rate, but also where we've continued to struggle in terms of student proficiency. We've also, of course, we've shared much of that information with the public as well. And we also made sure that our team stood available to respond to task force members, either in small groups or in whole, that we would be available to provide additional information that they might need. So tonight, we're going to have the fortune of hearing from Reverend Potter and members of the task force who will be sharing their recommendation, and we're really looking forward to hearing more. It's been truly a privilege to watch this happen and to see the leadership that has been shown by these members, and certainly by Reverend Potter and Reverend Chambers and Ms. Pittman, who supported Reverend Potter in leading the task force. So I'll welcome Reverend Potter forward, and I know he'll call upon members of the task force to join him as needed.
Thank you, Dr. Giss, and to the school board. Thank you for this opportunity to offer the recommendation of the North Tulsa Community Education Task Force in regard to the McLean 7th Grade Academy. First, I personally want to commend this task force for the dedication and determination they gave to this assignment. I have served on many committees and task force for some 38 years. I have served on many committees and task force for Tulsa Public School for some 30 years. But never have I served on a TPS committee or task force more dedicated or determined as this group. This task force has worked untiringly. We had hoped that meetings could happen every 2 or 3 weeks, but this group wanted to meet every week. When we tried to get them to recess for the Thanksgiving holiday, they refused and continued to work. So hats off to this group. A special thanks to Reverend Andrea Chambers, who served as co-chair and assisted in such a way that made for a smooth running task force. She made things happen. Also, special thanks to Ms. Karen Pittman, who served as our facilitator, and others who served in a great way. Thanks to the community, students, teachers, principals, parents, and all who have helped in this effort. You will never know how much you helped us. We've always believed that a successful effort must include not only the task force or TPS, but the whole community. So we thank you and look forward to your continued participation in this effort. As stated by the superintendent, this task force was organized by board member Reverend Janetta Marshall and also Superintendent Guest. The charge was to recommend a facility solution for the students and families at the McLean 7th Grade Academy, and to create solutions by exploring the current challenges facing the McLean feeder pattern. In order to meet this charge, the task force has gathered data, researched successful school models, communicated with TPS officials and subject matter experts, consulted with representatives from the McLean 7th Grade Center and feeder pattern schools, toured school buildings, held open community meetings to hear from concerned parents and community members, reviewed surveys from the 7th and 8th grade students, included the petitions submitted by CUBES and the Community Coalition of Academic Excellence. We truly believe from the bottom of our heart, from all our research, that this recommendation respects and includes the hearts of our community. This is our recommendation: that we establish a Monroe Middle School complex combining 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. The complex will be the only middle school for the McLean feeder pattern, to be located in the Monroe Demonstration School, 2010 East 48th Street North, and the Penn Elementary School at 2138 East 48th Street North. The implementation for August 2019. Currently, there are no public schools, middle schools, in the McLean feeder pattern. The rationale for this recommendation is as follows. Monroe is centrally located in the McLean feeder pattern. Originally, it was designed as a middle school with specialized areas for physical education, art, music, and auditorium. Moderate remodeling is needed. Most cost efficient to be ready for the 2019-20 school year. Building capacity is conducive to a middle school population. One middle school configuration creates a unified school community. Dr. Jolly Meadows is going to present the PowerPoint for us, and then I will come back to you.
When our task force began its work, we thought it very important to look at the benefits and advantages of the recommendation that we made. We were very serious about our decisions. Our recommendation to improve the learning experiences and student achievement in the McLean feeder pattern, to emphasize student safety, to address the developmental needs of the emerging adolescents in our community, to provide consistency for families by reducing transitional disruptions, to reduce stress for families with mobility challenges. But most of all, we focused on providing a high-quality neighborhood school. We could not make this recommendation without taking into consideration the 7th grade center and asking the question of how did we get to the point that we had a 7th grade center in our neighborhood that did not function. In order to do that, we worked backwards. We had to look at the feeder patterns. We knew that when students reached the 7th grade center, they were not prepared to be 7th graders. What we did is examined the feeder pattern connection to make our recommendation. We know that elementary school is the foundation for success in middle school and beyond. We know that children in 1st through 3rd grade learn to read, but we know after that they read to learn. If they have not gained the skills to gather information and to use that information to move forward, they are most likely to end up as dropouts. The P12 curriculum in the McLean feeder pattern must be aligned so that students entering the middle school reflect more academic similarities than differences. A strong elementary school makes a strong middle school. Our task force went further. Our subcommittee that looked at achievement gave us information about the feeder schools that made up the middle school 7th grade center. What we found was that the test scores in the McLean feeder pattern for the elementary schools are simply unacceptable. If you look at the 6th grade reading and math scores, we see that the proficiency rate for moving to 7th grade was not likely to produce a successful 7th grade experience. We are looking at scores for proficiency. So we see that at the first middle school listed, only 8% of the students that took this test in the 2016-2017 school year were successful or proficient. In math, only 7% of the students were proficient. You can look through the rest of the middle schools and see that the test scores did not reach the 25th percentile, which is the lowest quadrant. In addition, we looked at the scores for the 7th grade center, Monroe Middle School, or the demonstration school, and McLean High School. The scores in the 7th grade center reflected the scores, of course, of the elementary feeder patterns. In addition, we looked at the schools that are chartered in the proximity of our feeder pattern. We noticed that while these charter schools may have slightly elevated scores at this time, they are not proficient as well. Legacy and KIPP. In addition, we looked at charter schools outside of the sponsorship of Tulsa Public Schools, Hughes and Brown. Like all other charter schools and the middle schools in the feeder pattern, their scores are suffering as well. Moving further, we looked at the teachers who are delivering instruction to our children. As of data received from the district of April 27, 2018, we see the number of Teach for America and emergency certified teachers that were listed per school, per district. District 3, which is the McLean feeder school pattern, show that the largest number of emergency certifications and Teach for America teachers were in that feeder pattern at that time. As of December 18, we received information that showed a reduction in the number of Teach for America and emergency certified teachers, but we still see that in the feeder pattern for McLean, the numbers are the highest of any of the districts. We have been asked not to consider the path that teachers take to the classroom, that the quality of the alternative path to the classroom equals the path of traditional teachers. If we accept that, then we just refer you to these test scores. We know we are not saying that alternative certified teachers do not make excellent teachers. We know that they can if they have the desire. What we do know is that a novice teacher in a school district or a feeder pattern of children of the most need will have difficulty, as even veteran teachers do. What we can say at this point is that the professional development that these teachers receive does not help them educate the children that they serve. Therefore, we make the recommendation for the McLean feeder pattern as well. We could not singly make a recommendation for the 7th grade center without following up and making further recommendations. We know that early childhood development in the feeder pattern in elementary schools should provide the foundation for basic reading and math skills. Scientifically research-based strategies for literacy should be used to teach phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. We mean scientifically based research and not simply research-based. Scientifically research-based materials have undergone a scrutiny that classifies them as proven to make a difference in the learning of children. We also know that the feeder patterns must focus on the need to assist children who speak English as well as those who are learning to speak English. Information from the National Reading Panel supports that children that are learning to speak English must have support skills in the 5 building blocks as well. The math curriculum should also focus on content and process standards that help develop numbers operation, algebraic reasoning, algebra, geometry, measurement, data, and probability. The curriculum in the feeder pattern should align with the strong emphasis of 21st century standards. Further recommendations for the feeder pattern. P12 vertical articulation is needed to develop a rigorous and competitive curriculum that begins the systemic change needed to improve education in the McLean feeder pattern. May I get some water, please? A continuous progress curriculum is needed to encourage the steady student progression that includes high school and college. Following a review of the curriculum offerings in the district's middle schools, the task force recommends a full curriculum and extracurricular program for the McLean feeder pattern that includes, but is not limited to, core learning. Microsociety, which is in existence currently at the McLean feeder pattern, is recommended that it stay. In the fine arts, our research, thank you so much. Our research tells us that in the fine arts, children are able to relieve stress, they are able to better adapt to their surroundings, regardless of whether the art is the art department or music. So our research clearly supports that the fine arts and the arts programs in elementary schools and middle schools for all children is quite necessary. STEM and STEAM, project-based inquiry and collaborative learning. The task force recognizes the connection between STEM, STEAM, and the content areas. Should be offered during the school day and included in the regular curriculum. Clubs. We recognize clubs as well as sports as the leadership activities and character building programs that are necessary for students to learn how to live and work together. We also make recommendations for students with individualized learning plans, of course, with students on IEPs, 504, English language learners, and gifted and talented students. Leadership expectations for the McLean feeder pattern. Because school leaders are the key to success, we recommend the following expectations. Establish the vision for the future and set the strategy to get there. Guide the belief system that distinguishes the school culture and make sure that it is optimizing and energizing. Put the needs of all students first. There are several others that I will give you a few minutes to read. Accountability. We support a school-wide instructional focus through vision, words, and deeds. Leaders must support their school staff, classroom assistants, clerical, custodial, teachers, and counselors. They must lead the staff in critical examination of student performance based on the available data. They should work toward the goal of spending a maximum amount of time of the instructional day in the classrooms and in conversations with teachers around teaching and learning. They must be able to realign their resources, time, people, and funds to support the instructional focus. Expectations for teachers. Because teachers are the heart and soul of student preparedness, we recommend the following expectations. High-performing, qualified, and certified teachers that serve the students they teach. They must possess the stamina and dedication that the McLean feeder pattern students need and their families as well. They must have what they expect and what they deserve. They must engage in professional development that promotes culturally sensitive and culturally competent staff. They must be trained, of course, in the scientifically research-based models that provide for mastery learning. Teachers must use the blueprint for teaching, the standards by which students will be assessed at the end of the year. They must understand the role of assessment in data-driven instruction. They must learn to disaggregate data and how to use that data to improve student performance. Simply reading data without understanding how to disaggregate it, break it down, and determine what it means will not educate students. You must recognize cultural biases in the standardized test measures and provide the experiential learning to build background knowledge and increase proficiency. Teachers must also learn to use multiple assessment measures for demonstrating student knowledge. We recommend support services that are not limited to the full list that we have posted. We have a recommendation for parent and family involvement. We strongly recommend creating a school climate that fosters parental and family involvement, shared vision, and volunteerism. This would include engaging parents in meaningful ways and committing them to actively support their children and adolescents in their learning and development. There are many barriers that impact the learning process for students and prevent their families from fully participating in school. Social services, healthcare needs, the rigor of academics, employment, housing, trauma, social and emotional concerns, transportation, and incarceration pose daily challenges for students and their families. To help with these challenges, the North Tulsa Community Education Task Force recommends a Parent Resource Community Center for the McLean feeder pattern at the Alcott Elementary 7th grade center site. The rationale for the center, with a myriad of listings that I will give you a few minutes to read, and I will highlight a few. Ideally, our goal is to train parents to participate in their child's learning, to understand how to approach school personnel, to support their families, to better their lives, and to offer centralized locations for services for families. We have other uses recommended for the community center as well. The list that you see includes some of the recommendations and some of the ideas that the task force has implemented or thought of to use to help parents in this endeavor. To ensure the success and sustainability of the McLean feeder pattern and the management of the facility, we recommend that the task force members serve as the Community Education Advisory Board. The board, in collaboration with the Tulsa Public Schools Board of Education, would monitor and serve in an advisory capacity for the overall management, accountability, and oversight for this facility and feeder pattern. Because the task force knows the original intent and heart of the recommendation, the members will help to ensure that the desired outcomes will be realized. The task force has uncovered that this problem is much deeper than the recommendation for the future of the McLean 7th grade center. Therefore, we commit to support the continuous improvement of education in the McLean feeder pattern, as well as the other bulleted items you see, all for the purpose of achieving the desired incomes for the students.
Good evening. As a product of parents who have spent their entire professional careers in the educational field, we understand that, and I understand that it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a community to raise a school. Emerson is being currently marketed as Tulsa's first public Montessori school. And there's excitement around the building of that school. Our task force wants to use this facility and this school and market it as Tulsa's first community collaborative middle school. This school needs to reflect the connotation of its residents, and we can't rely on local, state, or federal government to take ownership of the issues that we face locally. As a task force, we have committed to take this ownership, and we recommend continuing as the school's Community Advisory Board. And because of our experience and our expertise and our passion for this mission, we can be the glue that brings together parents, community stakeholders, students, school administration, and district level administration. The advisory board will continue to influence and sustain the areas that include, but are not limited to, curriculum, engagement, finance, performing arts, athletics, continuing professional development, and the list goes on. But our goal is to be the advocate for all parties and help direct the overall student experience. The answer to real education and school transformation is strong, authentic, community connections, and actions, and we are dedicated to those actions, not just words. Thank you.
For our Community Advisory Board, we have a list of short-range and long-range recommendations to assist the board in implementing the McLean Feeder Pattern Plan. Listed is to immediately, upon the decision being made, to issue a press release to announce the new configuration of the McLean Feeder Pattern. We want to implement an aggressive campaign to set goals for reclaiming students in the McLean Feeder Pattern. We want to recruit leadership teams, and we want to offer an opt-out for current staff. Enlist school staff to positively promote the McLean Feeder Pattern. We want to implement an aggressive recruitment and enrollment for the entire McLean Feeder Pattern. We want letters sent to families to introduce the new configuration. We want students to have the experience of the middle school by asking the Monroe School to visit the elementary sites, to take their music programs and to take their arts programs and to introduce that to the students in the elementary schools as a recruitment tool. We, the task force, are willing to participate in the professional development that will be provided for the teachers in the McLean Feeder Pattern. We will recruit volunteers to assist staff as they prepare for a new year of school. We want to host a reception for staff and hold an open house with them for their classes. Our tentative long-range timeline includes working on the improvements and expansion due to growth in the McLean Feeder Pattern, as well as extended day and Saturday school classes. We want to participate in screenings as allowed under law and recommendations for personnel for the McLean Feeder Pattern. We want to ensure that the feeder pattern provides a high quality and rigorous education program for all students. We want to recruit partners from the community to work with the McLean Feeder Pattern. We will attend school board meetings, and we will assure that the McLean Feeder Pattern receives its equitable share of allocations from the district. We strongly recommend a moratorium on school closings within the McLean Feeder Pattern to allow time for us to recruit, reclaim, and rebrand the McLean Feeder Pattern. We strongly recommend a limit on charter expansion in the McLean Feeder Pattern. However, we understand that sponsorship of charter schools will likely continue within the district. The rationale is to recapture the human resources that would rebuild a high-quality neighborhood public school option. Current data reveal a trend of students rotating back into their home school after the October 1st count and prior to state testing. Since charter schools have not been able to meet the needs of students, we want the opportunity to reclaim treasured and valuable neighborhood children. Aligned with our desired outcomes, it is the belief of the task force that all students are capable of taking responsibility for their own learning. meeting high expectations for achievement, and developing the life skills that foster pride and excitement for their school and community. In addition, we believe that appropriate behavior for the classroom and various social settings should be included in the curriculum. To that end, we recommend the Great Expectations Professional Development Program as the model for transforming the McLean feeder pattern. At this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Linda Dizalo, CEO of the Great Expectations Program. Before she comes up, I would certainly like to let everyone know that I have been a recipient of the training of the Great Expectations Program as a principal in the leadership program. I have taken many teachers as a principal to participate in the summer academies at Great Expectations. So at this time, I would like to introduce her and have her come up.
Madam President, school board members, superintendent guest, North Tulsa Task Force members, and all community members, whether you've been involved with the task force or not. It is an honor for me to be here this evening to give you a snapshot of a school transformation program called Great Expectations. Each of the board members and superintendent guest is receiving a copy of 2 books. One of those is a book about Great Expectations, and one is a book about Marva Collins, and an entire packet of materials that I would like to walk you through. If you are in the boardroom, we are handing out a 1-page document that we call kind of Great Expectations 101. Everything that we believe, what we teach teachers, and our character education piece are on that one document. I don't know, I ran 100, I don't know if we have enough. I have to tell you, first of all, there are extras right here. I am overwhelmed. I've been an educator for 46 years. I've been a teacher, counselor, principal at all levels, elementary, middle, and high, a district leader, and a university vice president, and I have never seen this kind of passion and commitment, and not just bringing a recommendation, but we will be there for you. We'll be involved every step of the way. We'll be the glue. We will represent our kids, because they're all our kids. I've never seen anything like I've seen tonight, so I congratulate you. And Dr. Guest, you're very fortunate to have this kind of support. Like everybody here, yesterday I reflected about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and there are so many quotes that come to mind, but my favorite one pertains to this evening, and this is my favorite quote by Dr. King. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education. And those are the 2 domains of Great Expectations: a culture of respect and academic excellence. My partner this evening is Emma Rager. Emma, would you stand up for just a minute? And if you have any questions after this brief presentation, Emma will be here. Emma has been a Great Expectations instructional coach for many, many years. She is now retired, but she's still a consultant, and she still works in the schools, and she's a resident of Tulsa. I see Phil Albert is here. Phil is the president of Pelco Structural, and he is very committed to Tulsa. Phil, would you stand up as well? And he is a Great Expectations board member. The Honorable Carol Bush was going to be here. Representative Bush, were you able to make it? I have not seen her. Tonight, you've seen passionate, involved, and committed community members. You've seen district leadership that has shown courage, that wants an equitable school experience for all students and has empowered this task force to bring a recommendation. Not all superintendents would do that. Everyone in this room wants the best educational opportunity for all young people. I, too, looked at the website and learned a lot about Tulsa Public Schools, but I saw talk about an equity index that quantifies access to opportunities for all students. I saw a focus of developing facility strategy connected to improving access to quality learning experiences for all students. I saw the goals of the task force, which are just the same, and they are the same as Great Expectations. Our motto is to transform lives through education. And so, how do we make that happen? Well, the task force just presented a recommendation on school configuration and much, much more. But school configuration alone will not produce the change that you want. You heard many, many, many recommendations from Reverend Potter, Dr. Meadows. The teacher is the key. Teachers must receive the highest level of training to build a culture of respect and the highest level of training so the students can receive academic achievement at the highest level. The one additional component of school transformation is high quality, research-based, evidence-proven professional development and on-site support. That is the definition of Great Expectations. Established in 1991 in Oklahoma, GE founders brought together all of the thought leaders about education. They took a delegation to visit Marva Collins, an innovative educator in Chicago that had received national acclaim. That group read all of the latest research on the most effective instructional strategies. They put together this wonderful school transformation plan called Great Expectations. I'm going to ask the board members if you would allow me very briefly to walk you through the materials that you have received, and then we'll see if there are any questions we will try to answer. First of all, every board member received a book of Marva Collins' book because she was part of our foundation, and then they also received a copy of our Great Expectations book. In the packet, and many of these things can be found on the website if you're interested, is that professional development brochure. We have so many talented people in Great Expectations that regardless the topic, we have somebody that can provide that need. We have a leadership academy that 13 of the largest school districts in Oklahoma have brought all of their school and district leaders together, and those superintendents will tell you it's the best leadership training they ever had. We know the principal is key to improving a school. The document that many of you have is called a 4-in-1, and if you'll look at the top left, those are our core beliefs. Underneath that are 8 expectations, and when you go to a Great Expectations school, the students will say those 8 expectations, and that guides their behavior. Great Expectations schools don't have rules that say don't do this, don't do that. We have high expectations for all students, and they meet those. The 17 practices are the operational piece for teachers. This is what they learn when they come to us for training. And on the back is our character education piece. Those life principles, honesty, courage, integrity, all of those things that we know are important for our students to be a good citizen of the world. The second thing in your packet is a bicycle. And you might think, what is that about? But it's the 2 wheels represent the culture, the positive culture of the school, and the other wheel is the academic excellence. The vision is where we're going, and the pedals are the school leader and the educators and the students. They must be pedaling in the same direction. The next handout is a document that explains all of the accomplishments of the year 2018 from Great Expectations. The next one is testimonials from principals who are implementing Great Expectations. And we work with literally hundreds of schools from Michigan to South Texas, South Carolina. We have a model school in Kansas. We did training in Idaho. But most of our schools are in Oklahoma. We're Oklahoma created. At a recent meeting with some principals, I just said, would you give me a sentence or two about what Great Expectations has meant to you and the difference it's made in your school? And this is what I received, and when you see those, you will be blown away. Dr. Meadows talked about research-based, evidence-proven. The next document is a document that includes many of the pieces of research that have been done on Great Expectations. The next one is a list of model schools. I hope that each of you board members will visit a model school. I will gladly come and escort you and make that available to you. There are many model schools around the Tulsa area that we wouldn't have to travel very far at all. There are 89 model schools in the state of Oklahoma. The next handout is called GE Connect. We realize that many teachers are in places where they don't have support for Great Expectations, and so we have an online support. We have a monthly webinar, monthly master classes, and access to a coach. And then finally, I've included a list of the board members. We've got a couple of them in the room, but we have 19 board members and then 19 advisory board members from people from all over Oklahoma and other states. Great Expectations is sponsored by the Oklahoma State Department of Education, also by a myriad of charitable foundations as well as individual donors. Great Expectations addresses the social, emotional needs of the students. We provide teachers with the tools to assist students who have experienced trauma. Great Expectations has a vibrant character education component, and Great Expectations provides teachers with the latest evidence-based instructional strategies. We promote student engagement, critical thinking, literacy, collaboration, communication, and leadership skills. We train teachers in 4-day institutes in the summer. Instructional coaches go to the schools to help the teachers implement what we've told them. The Leadership Academy helps develop leaders. The online support is called GE Connect, and we have a huge array of online materials that are free for anyone. Now, the only comparable school district in our state, being an urban setting, is Oklahoma City Public Schools. Oklahoma City Public Schools has 9 model schools. 94% free and reduced lunch in Oklahoma City, much poverty, many high challenges, but Great Expectations is how to be a great teacher and how to have a great school. I hope that you will seek more information from us, and if we are selected to work with the McLean feeder pattern, I assure you we will do everything in our power to empower the teachers and the leaders to take good care of your kids.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I am Karen Pittman, I am facilitator for the North Tulsa Task Force. I spent 24 years in the classroom as a teacher for the district and also a retired principal. At this time, I'm going to call forward Reverend Deshaun Jarrett, New Jerusalem Baptist Church pastor and task force member.
Good evening. My name is Sean Jarrett, and I am the humbled, proud pastor of the New Jerusalem Baptist Church on the north side of Tulsa. Additionally, I am also a member of the North Tulsa Task Force. I would first like to say thank you to our president, our board president, and to our superintendent tonight, and also to our board member, Sister Marshall, for having the vision for this task force and for appointing many extremely educated, diverse and dedicated community members. It has been a true pleasure learning and collaborating with these professionals for the past several months, for the past long several months. I would like to thank all of the members of the North Tulsa Task Force, and with extreme gratitude and admiration for our fierce leader, Reverend M.C. Potter. Amen. Additionally, I would like to thank all the staff, from the principals to the custodial staff of every single Tulsa public school, for all you do to help our children. Lastly, a special thanks to the leadership and staff of McLean 7th Grade Center who have had to work to educate our children in an inadequate facility, doing the best that you could with what you have, with what you currently have. We've all asked you to do a great deal of work, and we appreciate the hard work you put in every single day. I am normally very reluctant to join task force as I'm extremely dedicated to my family and leading a growing church, which leaves me with very limited time. However, it is also because of this and my commitment to the community members of North Tulsa, I knew that it was my duty to support making a true impact. My investment in this task force is real, as it is my investment in the education of all children. Within the community of North Tulsa, generationally, many have lived underserved, without access to necessary resources, and being educated in an unequitable environment. As a community, we must fight together to provide equitable services so that all of our children are able to be productive citizens and able to compete in a global society. With the data and research gathered and analyzed, unless we begin to make immediate changes, this will not occur. This is not just about one building. This is not just about one school. This is about over 6,000 children on the north side of Tulsa, of whom are not reading proficiently in math, not reading proficiently, or doing math on a proficient level. Not only is this unacceptable, we should be ashamed that we as a city, as a state and community have let this occur for so long without a united fight. I agree with President Barack Obama in his speech he made in 2011 at the National Action Network, as he referred to education as the civil right issue of our time. Tonight, we have a chance to begin moving forward towards justice and equity for an underserved community. We all can begin to work together, beginning dismantling what Michelle Alexander refers to as the school to prison pipeline that exists in our community. Let me be clear about what we know hasn't worked. One, sending the 7th grade students back to McLean School is not right, and not the right situation. Two, creating 2 additional middle schools that would further divide already limited resources is not the right solution either. Lastly, not only do I endorse our work, but I'm asking you tonight that the entire board and Dr. Gist strongly consider the recommendation of the North Tulsa Task Force with your head and your heart. I realize that our recommendation creates great change. However, if we don't do something, I believe this will crucially violate the mission of TPS by vastly diminishing the opportunities that the North Side children have to make a positive contribution to our world. I leave you with the words of the civil rights leader and former Congresswoman, the late Shirley Chisholm. You don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing new ideas.
Thank you, Pastor Jarrett. At this time, we call for Marcos Rivero. He is a task force member.
Good evening. I will be brief, so you guys can clap about that later. But I may not look representative of the North Tulsa community, but soon Hispanics will comprise 40% of the North Tulsa community. And I've worked as a therapist in North Tulsa for quite some time. My wife, who is a maybe 5'2" white lady, has worked in North Tulsa for 15 years. So Comanche Creek, late nights, try to get her to be safe. She said, "These are my people," and so I'm proud to work with the task force. North Tulsa schools must not, as a collateral effect of promoting individual premier schools, contribute to the trauma caused by social and educational disparity. It is no secret that there is a lack of access to resources in the North Tulsa community, and that is a shame, but the lack of social and educational resources does not have to exist for the children. We believe that by creating a true middle school in the North Tulsa community, we would make great strides in reducing the social and educational disparities that currently exist for the children of North Tulsa. We believe that a true middle school will provide these children with a unified identity. In short, it is the belief of the North Tulsa Task Force that the children of North Tulsa are better together and that we all are better together. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcos. At this time, we're going to call Reverend Marlon Lavenhar, All Souls Unitarian Church pastor.
Thank you. I too will be brief. The night is late, but we have, as is real evident by the evidence that we've seen and the statistics, that we have a state of emergency here in Tulsa. And so I applaud you, Dr. Gist, for setting up a task force, saying that we're going to go to the people in the community, the leaders who know what's needed, who live it day in and day out. You said we weren't able to figure it out right. Let's get them, let's hear from them, let's get their recommendations, let's get the best of the best, let's put them together, and let's take their recommendation. I think any city in this country would die to have this kind of engagement from the community, especially in an underserved community like North Tulsa. My congregation has been partnered for 25 years with Unity School, formerly Jackson, now Unity School, and then Gilcrease for 19 years, and then McLean Middle School now for about 10 years. So we've been working, my members have been in the community, in those schools, week in and week out now for 25 years. And what we've learned in this process is listen to the people in the neighborhood. Listen to the people who live there, the parents, the teachers, the principals, they're the ones who know what needs to happen. So what I want to say is we have a state of emergency in this city and what in education, and what we need is leaders. I mean, what makes great leaders, let me say this before I close. What makes great leaders is leaders who see that that look to others for information in the local community, which you've done, but then to follow through and support them, even when their recommendations are not what you would have come up with and not what you expected, but you support them and say, we're behind you. We know you're the ones who are going to help us get out of this. And so what I want to say in conclusion is that if you override this recommendation, if you choose not to accept this recommendation because you believe you know better than they know, than this task force knows, then I just hope that you have a better idea, that your idea works, because otherwise it's just going to smack up paternalism, that we know better than you, you worked on this day in and day out, weekend, you live there, you've come up with this recommendation, all these leaders, you've said your communities are going to support this going forward, even after we've got plans in place to support this as a community. This is amazing what's happening in Tulsa right now. This is amazing what's happening in Tulsa Public Schools. I don't know if you do not support this, I don't know how we recover from the damage that will be done by the decision to override this task force in this community to make this change. So I implore you to step up to the hard task of leadership and to make bold changes. These statistics require bold leadership and bold decisions and change, and I believe you have it in you. I thank you for all the incredible dedication that you all put in to be on this board. You're here. It's 9 o'clock at night. We're just getting started over here. So you do incredible work. Thank you for what you do. Please support our task force.
Thank you, Reverend Lavenhar. At this time, we're going to call forward Reverend Dr. Rodney A. Goss, proud pastor, I should say. That's my church, Morning Star Baptist Church.
Hello, Superintendent Gist, and to the board, and to everyone here. I'm glad to be here just to say a few words on behalf of the North Tulsa Task Force. I'm not a numbers and a statistic man. I kind of synopsize and put things in its practical sense. what I heard today was that we had a 7th grade McLean school that was failing because of lack of enrollment, failing because of a building that is dilapidated and the cost is too high to renovate, failing because the students aren't getting the teachers that they need because it's become a training ground for teachers to move on to the next thing once they've got the experience they need that qualifies them. And so it's been relegated to the scrap heap. It's insufficient and unnecessary. And now we have a bunch of kids that's waiting to be tossed back into the same failed system that we try to rescue them from. And then there comes the solution, just throw them away. But then North Tulsa Task Force came under the leadership of Dr. Gist and those others who were brave enough to seek a solution that will breed a positive result. I looked at it and say, well, we have an elementary system that goes from 1 to 6th grade, and then we have a high school system that went from 8th to graduate, and we stuck the 7th grade in the middle. Now, I'm not the smartest person in the world or the sharpest pen in the box, but a 6th grader is too mature to be in the elementary system. And an 8th grader is too immature to be in the high school system. 6th grader now becomes a negative influence for those little kids who are trying to do the right things. And the 8th grader is now prey for those older high school kids, a breeding ground for teenage pregnancy or gang recruitment. What we have are dynamics and demographics that's all mixed up and all over the place. This just makes sense. And I'm a common sense, practical type person. That 6th through 8th grade middle school becomes an end, a means to an end, which will provide a good demographic and a good dynamic where now you can focus on those kids in that elementary school and the level where they belong, and high school kids can be where they are, and each level can prepare itself for the next level to come. By the time they get to high school, they'll have a fighting chance of being something. Now that's what I thought. All of those statistics told me that. Now I don't know about all the details. The devil's in the details. I know it's not as easy as it sounds, but it just makes sense. I stand here because I am an example of what can happen when ambition is killed and when potential is tapped. Now, I came from a grimy gutter place. I was one of those 7th graders in McLean that everyone has labeled. Those that put tags on them. They won't make it. They gangsters. The girls are this. The guys are that. And no other school wants them because now you're going to dilute our system with bad seed. I was that bad seed one time where I was taught how to dream just to be discovered that the dream didn't apply to me. So I ended up with killed ambition, like every one of those 7th graders will end up with if we throw them back into the system we took them out of. But someone saw something in me, and it was called potential. I had a guidance counselor who was a soccer coach, who was more concerned about states than he was about my future. So he told me, just get a trade, go to Votech. He minimized me. He lowered my ceiling. I didn't know how to dream anymore because I believed that that's the best that I can do. So I resorted to the culture that was around me, and I became a part of a negative fabric. That's all I saw. That's what happened in McLean. But we're not going to let that happen anymore, are we? In this day and time, see, the dream is not yet realized. But when I look in this audience, I see what the dream is all about. It's people believing in people. And stop letting other people outsource your future and decide what your children are going to be. It's when real people decide that they're going to get involved in a real issue and implement real change for the betterment of a generation. We don't need to lose any more generations. North Tulsa Task Force, I am so proud to be here. I'm so proud to be a part of North Tulsa this day. This is one of the proudest moments in the 3.5 years that I've been here in Tulsa. Because you know, we can be divided, folks. You right. And I came here almost expecting opposition in the crowd. But after that presentation, I can't see how anyone out here can see that what we're proposing have any negative connotations at all. Now, we might have to work out a few things. We may disagree on a few things, but the premise and the basic principle of what we're doing here have to be a consensus here that this is what we must do. My prayer is that we'll see this come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goss. At this time, we're going to call forward Laura Grisham. She's a McLean 7th grade center teacher.
Hi, I'm in the process of losing and regaining my voice, so I apologize for the way that that sounds. But like she said, my name is Laura Grisham, and I have the honor of teaching at McLean 7th Grade Academy. I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma a year and a half ago to start teaching, and when friends and family not from Tulsa would ask me where I was teaching, and I said McLean 7th Grade Academy, that tended to pique a lot of interest. I think the word academy can get exciting in education, and people wanted to know what it is and where it was that I was teaching. And so as I explained, I am teaching in a building of only 7th graders, and it's a building that used to be an elementary school that was oftentimes very, very confusing to people, and they said, why is it like that? And so as a Tulsa transplant, I did my research, and I asked a lot of questions, and I engaged in a lot of conversations to understand why McLean 7th Grade Academy existed. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the old Alcott Elementary. I learned about Gilcrease Junior High. I learned about the history of Tulsa Public Schools and the history of North Tulsa. And one of the most compelling conversations that I had was with an individual who was instrumental in the implementation of Project Schoolhouse. And in talking about the relationship between Max 7 and Project Schoolhouse, this individual stated that Max 7 existed as the result of a miscalculation. And I'm not here to bring up old things with Project Schoolhouse that I wasn't here for, but I think there is a sentiment that has to be expressed that if a child's education can be described as the result of adult miscalculation, there is a problem. Thank you. And we know that, right? We know that 7th graders don't need to be in a building by themselves, and we know that 8th graders have no business being in a building of high schoolers. And so as a middle school teacher, as a teacher of 7th graders, the idea of a true middle school is an exciting one. Students deserve to have a gym. They deserve to have science labs. They deserve to, thank you. They deserve to play on sports teams with people who go to the same school as them. Teachers deserve to work alongside one another to collaborate across grade levels. They deserve to have the victory of watching a child move from one grade to the next grade. Administrators deserve the opportunity to build a sustainable school culture rather than having to reset it year after year after year. And the community deserves a school that is empowering young people to create a better and more fair world. Leaving the schools as they are is a disservice to our students in North Tulsa. And so there's an opportunity sitting before us, and the board specifically has a responsibility to write the next chapter in the storied tradition of North Tulsa and Tulsa Public Schools. And frankly, I'm not old enough or smart enough to know what the right decision is, but I do trust in the work and the diligence of the task force and believe that they are making a good faith recommendation to this board. However, I do think I am old enough and smart enough to know that we will fail if we don't have a plan to carry out what is recommended before us beyond this meeting. We will fail if we do not place the right leaders in positions of power to advocate for our students. We need leaders who represent and are reflective of the diverse student body that they serve. We need teachers who are willing to teach students as whole people, not just academically achieving data-driven scholars. And finally, we need a curriculum that represents the diverse and rich cultural history of North Tulsa. And so tonight, this is not just a reflection on the leadership of Dr. Gist. This is not just an item to add onto the resume of the current board. This is not a test of the leadership of the new neighborhood school.
First and foremost, this is an opportunity to extend the vision and principles that we've talked about for the last 2.5 hours to our students. And the decision that is made in the upcoming weeks and implemented in the following months will be reflected and represented in the outcomes that our students are able to achieve. Our students are scholars, they are athletes, they are artists, they are awkward middle schoolers, and they are dreamers and doers. In 10 years, we should be able to look back on this decision and have no doubts that we made the right one. Not because the task force recommended it, because the data said it was a good thing, but because of the work that started after tonight that resulted in academic excellence for our students, which in turn continued to build and define the excellence that is in North Tulsa. I am honored to teach my students, and I'm honored to speak on their behalf tonight. I hope the board will see the potential for greatness that is here tonight and handle it with sincere integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grisham. At this time, we're going to call forward Tanil Bent from City Year, and she's also a task force member.
Good evening, Dr. Gibson, the board. I need to say nothing after that. That was phenomenal. I am Tanil Bent, a former TPS educator. I taught at 2 North Tulsa schools. I continue to work for an education nonprofit, City Year, which currently has a presence at McLean Junior and Senior High School. I myself am a product of public school education in this state. I've completed master's and undergrad degrees here in this state, and I'm starting a doctorate at OSU in the fall. Why do I say that? My zip code determined that I would garner a seamless and quality education. The same 5 digits which exempt other students from the same sort of opportunity, and this should not be. I'm not here per se to defend the recommendation. It seems to me that the intention to offer deserving, underestimated, and undervalued students a holistic, culturally relevant, inspirational, student-centric educational experience needs little defense. It is simply the right thing to do. The problems that exist in North Tulsa schools and in this nation's education system overall, we know are not new. We hear that the system is broken. I would offer a challenge to that and say that it is by historical design, that the system functions as it does in exempting and minimizing particular demographics of students. However, we can now say, for once and for all, challenge and shift that for North Tulsa students. I suggest then that true, transparent alliance between the North Tulsa Community Education Task Force and by extension the North Tulsa community and Tulsa Public Schools provides an opportunity to break with that dark tradition. There is no boundary marker for brilliance. Our students north of Pine and west of Lewis deserve to be believed in, invested in, and developed, as are their counterparts in other TPS schools. McLean students, families, and North Tulsa students and families overall have been subjected to enough stigma, judgment, and exemption even from their own. It is beyond time for North Tulsa students to receive the education which is not a privilege, but it is their right. So let me close by paraphrasing a favorite scholar of mine, Dr. Jeffrey Duncan Andrade, who is a professor at San Francisco State University. He says that schooling is teaching persons to work within a particular system, while education is teaching them how to change that system. It is my firm belief that this recommendation and the plans detailed therein provide opportunity for McLean students to move beyond schooling into a true educational experience that will inspire them to powerful citizenship and effecting prolific change in their own community and beyond. Thank you for your support. This recommendation is the right thing to do for our students.
Thank you, Ms. Bent. At this time, we'll call forward Jane Malone, community member and also member of the task force.
I'm a big girl now. Good evening to the board and to Dr. Guest, to Pastor Marshall, and all in attendance. Thank you, Richie. I am Jane Malone, In addition to being a member of the North Tulsa Community Education Task Force, I am also a member of historic Vernon African Methodist Episcopal Church. Pastor is here. I am president of Chamberlain Area Neighbors. Can, like Nike, you can do it. Okay? I'm a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, a taxpayer, a thorn in some of your sides, and still working to help our children succeed. Mr. Piggies reminded me, as you had said earlier, children learn to read to grade 3, then children read to learn. I initially said no when asked to be on this task force because I said I'm tired of meeting to see when we're going to meet again. And so, all children should have the same opportunity to succeed. All children can learn if given the opportunity. Their brains absorb. When they graduate, they are not ending. They are beginning. The time is now, in the words of John Rhodes, to do more than exist, live, do more than touch, feel, do more than look, observe, do more than hear, listen, do more than listen, understand, do more than talk, say something. These children are ours, not mine, not yours, not theirs, but ours. They're our children. We, they, may live on the other side of the town or on the other side of the tracks, but we deserve the same opportunity. Not piecemeal, but the entire menu. The appetizer, the salad, the main entree, the vegetables, the dessert, the water, or whatever beverage you prefer. But feed them knowledge and they will gain so much. As a member of this education task force, we believe that we are better together. We need quality education in North Tulsa. Important that all students, not just a select few, have access to a quality education. We do not need competing schools at 2 locations, Gilcrease and Monroe. We need history. One will receive genuine district support and priority, and then the other one is given minimal resources and support. One school will not split resources. We are unified in our mission to continue to be active to help this school succeed. We need a community resource center. Part of the quality education includes educating and addressing the needs of the whole child and family. Again, I ask that you do more than talk, but say and do something. I hope and pray that you will have the courage to do what is right and not be satisfied with what was previously done. When satisfaction starts, progress ceases. Accept the recommendation of the North Tulsa Community Education Task Force, and thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malone. At this time, we're going to call forward Reverend Robert Turner, Vernon AME Church pastor and task force member.
I am the grateful pastor of historic Vernon African Methodist Episcopal Church, and so thankful to have Sister Jane Malone as a member. I'm tired. I'm tired physically because I've been on the road 8 hours today. tired, emotionally, because as I reflect and I stand here before you today in full support of the recommendation, I'm reminded of the words of W.E.B. Du Bois in 1903. Problem of the 20th century is the color line. When I stand here before you today at 9:24 p.m. in the year of our Lord 2019, so the problem in Tulsa is still the color line. We talk around things. We use fancy words, demographics, minority, North Tulsa. But the fact of the matter is, if the issue were about white girls in the 7th grade going to sit to a high school, we wouldn't be here tonight. Some people may say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Product placement is key. Anytime you go into a Walmart or Sprouts or Reese's, y'all big dollar folks go to Whole Foods. They put the nice merchandise in obvious. ABC and CBC puts their prime time shows on prime time. The only applicant, love or hate, for the vacant school board position, the only African American was put last. Of all the 12, how in the world did that happen? Love or hate, superintendent. But I thought it was quite odd that the only African American was the last one to give up presentation. And the group representing what we all know as the black side of Tulsa is the last thing on the agenda. If this is not a special presentation, I don't know what is. But you will put people who are seeking candidacy before the very children in North Tulsa on your agenda. So don't tell me, don't lie to me about how much you care about North Tulsa. Product placement. Where did you place us in your agenda? Dead last. Where did you place the only black applicant for the school board position? Dead last. And I know this is an inconvenient truth. I'm not from around here, so I'm not used to fitting in to Tulsa's aristocratic society. I may not get invited to coffee. I don't want to be invited to coffee. I don't drink coffee anyway. Drink tea. And sometimes maybe Long Island. But you know, Lord forgive me. But the fact of the matter is, we have a problem in regard to race. This is not the first time you've had a recommendation given to you. Q, before we even step foot, has been doing this work for decades. In fact, the reason why the task force exists is because last year you wanted to put this grade up, 8th grade, 7th grades in the high school. But because of a petition that I signed and others, you had a community meeting. The issue is a fake issue. The enrollment numbers at McLean, they're down. So you have space. We heard from your administrator. They came and told us how it's unsustainable, paying the bills, and I was, just give me a number. How much are we having a shortfall? But even that is a false narrative. It's fake news. The reason why the numbers in McLean are so low is because this school board, every application that's submitted for a charter school in North Tulsa, you accept. That's right. And so if you are accepting charter schools to be put in North Tulsa, how can you complain about the population or enrollment of schools in North Tulsa? you have put a leak in your own balloon. And wonder why, my microphone on, and wonder why there's no more water left. Close the leak. And from the numbers you saw, the charter schools are not blowing it out the water. We, tonight, stand united to humbly request. We're peacefully asking you tonight. I'm peaceful tonight. Believe it or not, this is peaceful. But we're peacefully asking you tonight to allow us to do for our children that which you have neglected to do. You have allowed every other charter school application. We're not even trying to be a charter. We're trying to work in the confines of the public school. And we're humbly requesting peacefully, without bringing in the media, without having any mass movements at the moment, but peacefully, let us do for our children what you all have neglected to do. Thank you for your time. God
This time, we're going to call forward Diane DeCosta.
I have no idea how to follow that. And I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Diane DeCosta. I'm a current teacher, proud teacher at McLean Junior and Senior High. And I admit, what I wrote at the moment after school today, after days of a long day of teaching, I'm sorry, I'm like on an hour, I don't know, of being up after a long day of being with students. I'm a proud teacher at McLean. I want you to know that first and foremost. I am a proud teacher at McLean, and my students are amazing. They are amazing individuals. One of whom I brought with me today. Hopefully she got her homework done a little bit after this meeting. But I'm a current teacher at McLean Junior and Senior High, and I intentionally say junior and senior high since often we can forget that the junior high is part of McLean Junior and Senior High. With one hallway about 100 yards long in the corner of our building and no single teacher or administrator who's solely responsible for the 8th grade, it's easy for our 8th graders to be forgotten in this configuration. In a school already strapped for personnel and resources, adequately serving the needs of our 8th grade students in the current state of our school is nearly impossible. From school-wide policies to student events, even to the traffic flow in our hallways, it's often for 8th graders to be the afterthought, or if they're thought of at all, because it's hard for us to remember with all of the things that are going on, but they deserve better. They deserve to be remembered. Teachers of the 8th grade often ask, what about the 8th grade, since the confusing configuration makes it separate, but not separate, but confusing, and they just deserve better. It is to no fault of the amazing and selfless people who work in that 2949 building and across the street in that 7th grade academy, because it is in fact those teachers who keep those buildings alive and breathing. It is just the setup that is really just shooting us in the foot because it doesn't make sense. It is impossible to really set up the 8th grade for success when our allocations are split across 2 separate facilities. We don't have a principal, they don't have a dean, we don't have a this, they don't have a that. I got to know the 7th grade teachers super well from going to our basketball games together, because our students play on the same team, but they don't even go in the same building. So before the task force meeting, one of the community meetings that I attended, I asked my students to complete a survey on their thoughts about the middle school experience at McLean. Of the 60 students who completed the survey, 40% of the students agreed, or strongly agreed, only 40%, that they felt valued at all at the McLean school with the junior and senior high setup as 8th graders. Common threads in the comments of the survey also that I witness as a teacher is that students feel confined to the hallway behind the doors, having to witness the opportunities of the high school but not getting to participate, and feelings of just being there but being excluded. I don't think it is a surprise to anyone in the room that the status quo isn't working. It's not a surprise, we know it. And I hope that regardless of the growing pains of adopting a change, we see a need for some kind of action, just any action. And I fully trust that the task force has thoroughly explored all options and is proposing a plan that's best for students, families, and the communities at large. Our students deserve better. In fact, they deserve the very best. Regardless of the decisions presented tonight and made in the future, I would hope that a dull task with setting students best up for success rise to that occasion and provide all students in Tulsa Public Schools the opportunity to have a true middle school experience in a building where they feel like they're supposed to be there and valued for being there. Also, after such a long day, after 3.5, I don't even know how many hours of sitting here, I just want to shout out all of the school personnel that have gone to work at 8 a.m. and then come and are going to turn around and do it in less than 12 hours again. Because those are the people who keep our school running. We are the ones who want the best for our students. And I'm like getting emotional talking about this, but I have gotten to know these community members by going to meetings late at night. I've gotten to know our PTA president for going to all of the community meetings and the PTSA meetings. We have teachers who can, with the drop of their name, turn a student's behavior around in seconds. I don't care what fancy plan we put ahead, but these teachers, you say their name in front of a student acting up, it gets turned around. And it's those kinds of people who I appreciate. And I hope you would support in a system that's set up for success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. And before our last speaker comes, at this time, we would like to applaud the efforts and the speakers that have come before us tonight. So at this time, let's give them a big round of applause. Forth our last speaker now, Asia Brown.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Maisha. I am an 8th grader at McLean, and I want to share my experience as an 8th grader. We are treated unfair. We have to eat cold breakfast, and the high school gets to eat hot food. We have to wait until the hallways is clear to go to our classes. Everything we do is basically monitored. This makes me feel like we're not respected and trusted in the school building. High school gets way too much leeway. 8th graders treated differently. High school gets field trips and a couple 8th graders are invited. We don't get to do anything as a whole. This makes me feel angry that we can't be treated equally. And I'm going to pass all my classes regardless, but 8th grade moving on to the 9th, I want them to have a better treatment. So with that being said, I think all middle school should be put together and all high school should be put together. Thank you. Don't get me wrong, the people who work in the schools are great, but the way the school is set up is totally wrong.
Thank you, all who have presented. You have blessed us tremendously. We strongly recommend that you accept this recommendation. The welfare of the North Tulsa community, the prayer that all kids in our community receive a quality education, rests with this acceptance. When our young people have no hope of college or securing jobs that provide the means of quality living, when they cannot feel good about themselves, good self-esteem, they then go out and create their own means of hope. And usually these means are negative and end in prison or death. We cannot just build prisons and larger jails. We must give our young people hope. We must help them feel good about themselves. I also had a personal objective when I took on this assignment. That objective was to restore the trust between Tulsa Public School and the North Tulsa community. I don't know if this trust can be restored if this recommendation is denied. I'm reminded of a story. There was an old gentleman who lived in a small community. He was noted for the gift of predicting the future. Naturally, large crowds came to him daily, for many wanted to know what the future held for them. He was very, very popular. There was a citizen of the community who was jealous of him and sought to discredit him to show he could not predict the future. In the presence of a large crowd, he challenged the old man. "What's in my hand?" he asked. The old man replied, "A bird." He then asked, "Is it dead or alive?" The old man replied, "If you keep your hand closed, the bird will die. If you open your hand, the bird will fly away and live. It's in your hand." If you, the board, close your hand on this recommendation, the educational process that will make for equity for all students will die. But if you open your hand and accept this recommendation, the educational process that will make for equity for all children in our community, a diverse community of African American, Caucasians, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Asians. We are a diverse community. Board, it's in your hand. Thank
So for anyone who wondered, all of the lead up into the presentation by this task force and wondered the accolades that we were sharing about how impressive it was, the way people worked together with the passion and enthusiasm that was shown, you're not wondering anymore. It's very evident through the voices that we heard here tonight. All of the work, the passion, the enthusiasm, and the thoughtfulness that went into what was shared with us here tonight. Very grateful again to this board, to Board Member Marshall and the other members of the board for supporting this decision to put the task force together, and as we shared with them that this was going to be different from other groups that had been brought together, and we're committed to that. Again, thanks again to Reverend Potter, Reverend Chambers, Ms. Pittman, and all the members of the task force for the tremendous amount of work that you put into this recommendation. Definitely, thank you. And then of course from our team, Charlotte Manning, Charlotte and Michael both provided support, and other members of our team. And I loved that some of the folks who spoke, that our educators spoke, that a student spoke, and it really showed the relationships that were built through the community outreach that the task force did, so we're grateful for that as well. There's a lot more to come from here. There is a big recommendation within this package, and then there are a lot of other recommendations within this package, and so we are committed to working with the task force to consider all of these and to think about the implementation, because as was one of the task force members indicated, that the details are where implementation will succeed or fail, and we're committed to making sure that we hear this recommendation, take it, and then take some very serious next steps, and we're looking forward to that. So, Madam President, that concludes item H, which is item H because special presentations are not actionable. Special presentations are recognition and things like that, and when we have an item of this level of seriousness, that it needs to be an item that will be taken before the board for a future action. So this concludes item H.
Questions from the board members on item H? Ms. Marshall.
So will this item come back for information purposes, or will it come back for action?
I think that's something that we're going to have to work on together. There will be an action. So what she means is not that we would not have an action, but whether or not there would be an information item prior to there being an action item. And I think that that's correct. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Ms. Marshall, but yes. And so we have to work through that. There are, in order, like I said, there's the main recommendation, and there's some new parts to that, some things that we haven't seen yet that I want to make sure that we understand what they are. So the inclusion of Penn Elementary School, for example, is something that we need to talk through with task force leaders and understand. And then in addition to the facility recommendation, there are other recommendations, and so we have to work through and figure out, well, you know, what parts of that come and when does it come and in what form, and so that's what we'll be working on very carefully with the task force beginning tomorrow.
Thank you.
Unless we want to start tonight. Probably tomorrow.
Thank you, Dr. Gist. I did want to recognize Dr. Turner Addison, who's a former board member, and we recognized Dr. Decker earlier, but Dr. Turner Addison was a member of the task force, so thank you for being here, Lana. We miss you too. And Representative is here as well. Stand up. Any further questions? So that brings us to our staff reports, and as I understand it, we do not have any staff reports.
We have 3. No, just kidding. That's a joke. We do not have any staff reports tonight, Madam.
Any board member reports or concerns? Ms. Beck.
I have one that it's the leave that it's going to be held over until next time. And I attended the state school board meeting this last weekend, and I'll give you the details of the next meetings. By the way, Ms. Hutchins just got word that the streets are starting to get slick.
Thank you, Ms. Fate. We don't have any citizens' comments this evening, and Dr. Gist, I understand you don't have a report this evening.
No.
We have one non-routine item to consider this evening, and that is to enter into a resignation agreement with Jody Parsons and to authorize its execution by the board president and the board clerk. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the resignation agreement? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Wester?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Wade, any new business this evening?
No new business.
Okay. Sure. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss the individuals who have applied for appointment to the Board of Education to fill the Board of Education, to fill the Board Election District 5 vacancy as authorized by Title 25, Sections 307B1, 307B7, and Title 70, Section 5-118 of the Oklahoma statutes.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. I will take the vote now. Ms. Wester?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll be adjourned to executive session.